Then Barbara Rawlings. Mr. Kean, you're here for Ms. Rawlings?
Yes, sir. I'm present with Ms. Rawlings.
And then just when I was looking at the file here, it doesn't look like Mr. Rawlings has been served. Do you know if he's been served?
And Ms. Rawlings had heard from family members that he had, but I was just asking her if she had received anything in the mail from the sheriff's office.
And Your Honor, Lorenzo Leone, I'm appearing for Mr. Rawlings
Okay.
to reset this. I think we should save the Sheriff's Department's resources and indicate that service is effective. And if Mr. Keehan sends me an acceptance, I can sign off.
Okay. And you're appearing now, and I don't see a notice of appearance either, which is why I didn't mention you, but you're appearing on behalf of Mr. Rawlings?
Mr. Rawlings, and we will perfect the record and file a notice of appearance.
So hang on just a second. So someone, oh, you're Sean Rawlings? Okay. So just take a, well, why don't you come on up in here? So take a seat here. So Mr. Rawlings apparently just walked in. Okay, so I guess I'm going to talk to both of you about what do you anticipate happening today? I'm kind of getting from Mr. Kean that this is taking him a little bit by surprise here, but and again, we haven't got a notice of appearance yet. So I guess what are the parties anticipating happening today?
Let's pick a date that works for all the parties involved. I can say that there's a somewhat of companion matter in the Superior Court with.
Okay, so hang on just a second. What's your name?
Joni D. Stegman.
What is your name?
Joni D. Stegman.
Okay, you can go take a seat back in the courtroom, okay? Okay.
So, Your Honor, as I was saying, there's a somewhat of a companion matter in the Superior Court that is set for Wednesday, and that's going to be continued. And I understand these are typically heard on Mondays. So I would propose Monday, October 7th. However, I have a settlement conference that morning. Monday, October 14th, I have a trial in Superior Court. So unfortunately, I'm looking at Monday, October 21st.
Mr. Kean?
We wouldn't be opposed to that if that date works with counsel and the court.
Say that again, please.
We would not be opposed to October 21st if that date's available with the court.
Okay, it is. That's a Monday, which is when we do these. There is a temporary order in place. I'd sign an order that reissues a temporary order. All those conditions that were present in the temporary order will remain in place, and then we'll all reconvene on October 21st. And Mr. Leone, I'm checking the box that says the restrained person appeared at the hearing in person and received notice of the order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And so we can print, since he's here, we can print a copy of that and we can make a copy of that and give it to him and then send him on his way. And then Mr. Kean, you and your client, and you too, Mr. Leone, you can get a copy of this off the Thurston County District Court website. Thank
you, Your Honor. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So you understand there, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in Superior Court, but the temporary order in this case remains in place. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, so Mr. Kean, you can come on, and then you can come up with your client right there.
The hearts are straight.
This is from his.
And would Your Honor mind if Mr. Kean and I pull the course of what materials it has been able to review?
So are you at, well, I'm not sure what you're asking.
So I'm looking on the district court online filings, and I'm not seeing several filings that were made by both parties.
But no, I don't see those either. When were they made?
I believe Mr. Rawlings and I filed.
Your hands, it's hard for me to hear.
Oh,
you
sorry.
hands like
I
that.
believe
Okay.
Mr. Rawlings and I filed a declaration on either Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, and then Mr. Keehan filed one to close of business on Friday.
I have not seen those. We may need to take up a different case.
Which is fine. Right?
What's that?
Which is fine.
Okay.
Mr. Keehan this time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Have a great day now.
So what did you submit in this case? Why did
We have we just actually filed a declaration of Sean Rawlings.
right. He says Wednesday or Thursday of last week.
And we We emailed it to TCDC Civil, and Mr. Keehan did the same with his materials on Friday.
On Friday, we would not have gotten it. So, yeah.
And that's why I didn't see it. Do we get it on Friday?
Mhm.
So, yeah, you can have you go back into the courtroom then. We might end up taking this case last. And so I don't know if you and Mr. Keehan have spoken to get some sort of resolution, or if that's possible.
I will give him one more ring.
Okay. What's that? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, but I'm not gonna stop everything and read it now. Mr. Keehan, can you come on the Zoom call? Are you available a week from today?
I believe so. Let me just double check, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
Okay. The temporary was granted in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we'll reset it. We'll reconvene in a week. When the courtroom clears. And you can go back and sit and,
Thank you.
yeah,
So I go out there.
no, wait right there on the bench there for a second. So this is a case of Barbara Rawlings and Sean Rawlings. Barbara Rawlings is on the Zoom call with her attorney, Mr. Keehan. Sean Rawlings is in court with his attorney, Mr. Leone. So before we start, I just want to, on this case, I reviewed the file. There's a lot of things in this file that don't involve the issues between the parties. You know, terms about apparently Mr. Rawlings' brother and their father. There's a lot, I mean, none of that. The only thing that's going to determine whether or not an order is appropriate is the interactions between Mr. Sean Rawlings and Ms. Barbara Rawlings. That's what I want to hear about. I don't need to hear about any of the vulnerable adult stuff and all of that. And so, although some might tangentially come into it, but so here's what's going to happen, Ms. Rawlings. I'm going to you unmute. Your attorney's going to unmute. I'm going to swear you in, and then Mr. Keehan, you can either question her, or I can just have her testify in narrative form, whichever you decide. Mr. Leone may wish to ask you some questions, which of course he's allowed to do. And then we'll go from there. So could you raise your right hand, ma'am? Can you hear me? Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down.
Your Honor, I have a quick question as well.
Mhm.
For the court, or just kind of a kind of more question about the theory of this petition. It's pled as a vulnerable adult protection order,
Okay.
That
should be in Superior Court then.
it should be in Superior Court. However, I think it's facially deficient.
Okay, so hang on just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Keehan, I'll hear from you on that issue.
Yeah.
Should this be transferred to Superior Court?
Since it is pled as a vulnerable adult protection order, that I think is likely where it should have been filed. When prior to Ms. Rawlings filing this petition, there was a no contact order in a criminal case that was going to be dismissed. So the deputy prosecuting attorney on that matter had advised Ms. Rawlings to go next door to district court to file this petition, so that she would have the protection she would be under the protection of a protection order as soon as the release conditions terminated on the Superior Court. And
okay.
So
again, what are we doing now? I mean, should this be transferred to Superior Court to be dealt with there?
I think it would be appropriate to transfer this to Superior Court because of the format of the petition. But would object to that it being dismissed or not being in effect during the transfer.
Hang on, just a second. Say that again.
I object to the petition being dismissed and Ms. Rawlings not having the benefit of a temporary protection order during the period that the case is transferred.
Your Honor, I think that when we look at the substance of this petition, substance over form, this kind of, I think we're in the appropriate venue because of the allegation of more or less unlawful harassment. I think it's facially deficient to even be a vulnerable adult protection order case because
So then do we want to proceed on an anti-harassment statute here? Which I'm
that's
fully
what
prepared to do.
I would prefer to do.
So let me list, okay, I misunderstood your first comments then. Mr. Kean, what say you to that? We can proceed on an anti-harassment petition here now.
I would not be opposed to that. I think there's under the definition of domestic violence in our CW 7.105.10, one definition of domestic violence includes unlawful harassment, includes coercive control, and there's some element of financial exploitation, but much of the evidence that will be presented is going to relate to unlawful harassment and infliction of fear of harm.
Okay. So if she's sworn her in, then we'll proceed on a harassment theory. And how do you wish to have her present testimony? Do you wish to examine her or just have her testify in narrative form?
Ask her a handful of questions, and I understand that Your Honor's instruction about the need to not get into the nitty-gritty of the vulnerable adult case with Thomas Rawlings. Some of the events occur in that context, but I won't be going out of my way to introduce evidence that relates to the vulnerable adult protection order case in Superior Court.
So go ahead.
Okay. So, Ms. Rawlings, I'm going to begin by asking you about the events of July 10th of this year. Do you recall what you were doing on July 10th?
I was preparing that afternoon to go to Tom's house to pick him up to go to the bank with him.
And who's Thomas Rawlings?
Thomas Rawlings is my ex-husband and Sean's father.
And did you go to Thomas' house that day?
I did that afternoon and I found Tom not in the house. I got kind of, whoa, where's Tom? He's wandering the neighborhood, so I drove around the neighborhood. I did not find Tom walking around, so I went back to the house. And as I got back to the house, the two deputies were there and wanted to ask me some questions.
And what, if anything, did you do next?
I talked to them for a few minutes and I said, Tom has a dog. I'm going to need to get the dog over to the kennel before the kennel closes. So please let me do that.
Then, what, if anything, happened while you were taking the dog to the kennel?
Driving to the kennel, I got a very angry phone call from Sean about why were the police there and they had no right to be there. And it was a very angry phone call.
Can I have you turn to Petitioner's Exhibit 3 on page 17?
Got it over here.
Your Honor, don't know when you have that exhibit up before I proceed.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kean, could you say that again, please?
Do you have that exhibit before you?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's 17 of 22, Mr. Kean.
17 of 21, I think it should say at the bottom. Exhibit 3.
17 of 21. Thank you, Mr. Kean.
No problem. Ms. Rollins, could I have you read a couple of sentences from the report and then ask you about them? Starting on the third line, the sentence that begins with your name.
Okay. Barbara said Sean called her after she left the house with Chester and was going off asking, why are the cops at the house? They had no reason to be there. Barbara appeared worried and said she didn't want Sean to get mad at her for talking to us.
And is that an accurate description of what happened?
Yes, I would say so.
Were you in fact worried?
Yes, I was worried
And
about Sean's behavior.
And why were you worried about Sean finding out that you had been speaking with law enforcement?
Sean has long held the opinion that you don't talk to the police officers, that you don't give them information. You go through your attorney or whatever, but you do not talk to the police officers. He's long held that opinion.
if we go to Exhibit 2, looking at pages 1 through 3 of Petitioner's Exhibit 2.
Okay,
I'm taking
Say that again, Mr. Kean. Where are you at?
Petitioner's Exhibit 2. I'm having Ms. Rollins look at pages 1 through 3 of Petitioner's Exhibit 2.
Thank you.
Ms. Rollins, are you familiar with those pages 1 through 3? Exhibit
fairly
2?
well, yes, fairly well.
And what was significant about these messages that you wanted them included as exhibits?
Sean seems to have a theme here that I hated his father, that I treated him as if he was diminished and useless as dolt and diminished as incompetent is one of the things I have written down in the text. There just seemed to be this theme that I hated his father hated me. What else do I see here? He's a sovereign human being and he needs to be respected as one. And he goes on to say, I have this constant obsession of forced relocation. And I need that to be interfacing him for a while because I'm stirring up family members. And the list of all you cannot detest him and want to see him gone. So there is obviously no rectifying your hatred, which then means that you shouldn't be creating a scenario where you have to interact with someone who affects you like that.
And
This was a constant theme.
And for context, what is it that Sean is upset about, or that you're requesting, or that he thinks that you're trying to accomplish?
He has apparently the feeling that I mistreat his father, that I'm rude and I hate him. That's what this text seems to me to be referring to.
Is any of that accurate?
No, it's not accurate.
Can I have you look at Petitioner's Exhibit 2 now, turning to pages 4 through 9? Are those text messages between you and Sean from June 7th?
Correct,
June
yes,
7th to the 9th?
Yes.
And what is going on for context with that message?
Well, again, we're back to the message of you should remember to tell Aunt Carol how much you despise him the next time you're talking to her, and let her know at this point you just wish he was dead. I've never said any such thing at all. I need to tell the court that I never said that.
And looking at page 5,
Okay.
can I have you read the last sentence
From here.
of the text? Yes, of the text message from Sean on page 5.
I hope you can somehow find a higher road, but you do not have my permission to defame me or hurt my father in this process of psychotic behavior.
Were you at any time defaming Sean? Were you defaming Sean at any time?
I do not think so. Obviously, he took it that I was, but I was never defaming my son ever.
Were you now, I'll have you turn to page 10 of Petitioner's Exhibit 2. And
Okay.
can I have you read just the first, well, first, what's shown on page 10 of Petitioner's Exhibit 2?
You want me to read the?
What is it? What does that show? It's a
answering
text
Sean.
message from June 21st.
It's the text message from June 21st, and it's the big theme of Sean's how I hate his father and so forth. And I answer that by saying, Sean, you can rail all over me all you want and tell me I'm slandering you. It's got to stop.
And did it stop?
It did not stop until there was a no contact ordered.
Do you have a concern that with no contact order, that messages would continue harassing this?
I do, yes, I do. That's what I want, this continued contact order.
Please turn to pages 11 and 12 of the same exhibit.
Okay,
There's a message that's in all capital letters.
correct.
Would you please read that?
The whole thing. Where would you like me to start?
At the bottom of page 11 with I don't.
I do not need your reminder or any condescending attitude. Your job is to lead alone. That's it. And would you like me to continue?
Just whistle.
So come down from that pedestal that you're standing on, first of all, and start doing your part to stay away from there. Everything is taken care of. I don't need your mixing up or messing with anything. I have had him on a good and organized track, and his memory and communication improving. I don't need you over there bullying him around. Away. You hate him. He hates you. Neither of you have any business with each other. Stop trying to pick it all apart. I have it all taken care of.
Have you now turn to page 20 of the same exhibit, page 20 of.
Oh, the same exhibit? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, here we are.
So Mr. Kean, maybe I should have jumped in earlier. You know, I did read these text messages, and if you want to use them from argument, you can refer back to them.
Okay, great.
But I mean, I've read them beforehand. I'm seeing them again now, but anyway, I apologize for interrupting. You may continue.
I'm going to ask, I'm going to ask one more question about one of. I want to just have you read the not aloud, just review the highlighted portion, starting with the word if, and then I want to ask how you interpreted that.
I interpret it as a threat that you want this investigation with APS stopped, or he will isolate me from the family.
Now I want to ask about your finances. There's something that was mentioned in Mr. Rawlings' declaration.
About my finances?
Yes.
Okay.
At some point did you loan Mr. Rawlings a substantial amount of money?
I did, yes.
What was the amount and when did you loan it?
The amount was it was a HELOC of $150,000. And it was, I want to say the summer of 2022.
Did Mr. Rawlings ask to borrow $150,000?
He had some flooding in his house, and we talked one evening about what to do about this situation. And I said, well, how much do you think you're going to need? And he said, probably about 50,000. And so I went to the bank and talked to them, and they suggested getting this HELOC, which was 150,000, of which all of it was used by Sean.
So was there ever a point in time where, after saying he needed $50,000 to repair his house, that he asked to borrow the extra 100,000?
No, we never really discussed it.
And as of the date the protection order was issued in this case, what was the outstanding balance on the loan that HELOC loan?
I want to say in the area of 145,000 was used.
So was any payment made on the principal?
On the principal, no. On the interest, Sean religiously every month paid the interest. The principal was never touched.
So after 4 years, the balance on the loan was the same?
Yes.
Did you ever try to discuss a repayment plan with him and get it reduced to writing?
On occasion, I would discuss it, and I was basically put down about I didn't understand how HELOCs worked or the length of time that it took to pay them off, et cetera, et cetera. I was put down. Is the only way I can explain it.
So he was not receptive to your attempts.
He was not.
And Mr. Rawlings' declaration, there was a statement about a matter that was dismissed with a Home Depot card. I'm correct?
Oh, you want to see?
Yes.
To me?
Yes. You recall in Mr. Rawlings' declaration, he refers to a matter with a Home Depot card that was found on him, and the matter was later dismissed.
Correct. Yes.
And was Mr. Rawlings an authorized user on that account?
He was.
And when you realized the mistake, you had cleared it up?
I had received a letter from the prosecutor's office about the Home Depot card. The night that the deputies were asking me about this card, there was so much emotion going on that day, and I just got confused. And I said, "What? He has my Home Depot card? He shouldn't have any of my cards." So I made that mistake. I got the letter from the prosecutor's office, and I called them up first of all, and then I returned that letter saying he had authorization by me to use that card. There was a misunderstanding on your part.
And since that time, have you reviewed statements from other credit cards?
Yes, my Alaska credit card. Yes.
And what, if anything, did you find when reviewing those Alaska credit card statements?
My Alaska card, I had authorized Sean to use it one Christmas a couple of years ago to buy Christmas presents for his children, basically. Unbeknownst to me, Sean has continued to use that Alaska credit card, unauthorized by me.
And would payments be made when it was used without your knowledge?
He made payments on it, but they were made prior to the closure of the statement for that month. So the balance was never, this huge balance was never reflected because it was paid before the cycle was closed.
And this was something that was done without your knowledge or
without my authorization or my knowledge. I didn't see the balance on the statement, and so I didn't get hysterical.
I believe that you had prepared a statement that you wanted to read to the court. That can have you.
Yes, that's right there.
I can have you, if you'd like, you can. And in closing and wrapping up Ms. Rawlings' testimony, she had been very nervous about testifying and had prepared something that she wanted to present to the court.
Are you ready?
You can.
Your Honor, I wish to leave some clarifying statements with the court, and I have chosen legal representation because I understand this is a very difficult issue. I wish to say that Sean has never ever physically threatened me. This has all been emotional and very stressful. There were personality issues and manipulation of all kinds, sir, and I attached some very intense texts from Sean as well. All I can say is I feel very threatened and very frightened. People can do some very strange things when they're angry. There's been financial manipulation as well, but let's go back to the beginning. There have been some serious issues in our family for quite some time regarding the care of Tom, who is Sean's father. Tom has been in the throes of Alzheimer's and has been living alone, unsupervised in his home with
I'm going to stop you there. Like I say, I understand all that. All that's in the declaration. What I want to know about is what Sean Rawlings has communicated to you. That's what I understand the issues with Sean's brother and his father and all that. I get all that, but you're the petitioner. I want to know about the harassment you're alleging from Mr. Rawlings, and I'll give him a chance to respond too when the time comes.
That's basically what I am saying in this statement, that I feel very threatened. I feel very frightened because I think that people can do some very strange things when they're angry.
And now I'm going to give Mr. Leone a chance to ask you questions if he wishes to do that. Mr. Leone?
Thank you, Your Honor. So let me make sure I'm starting at the right point here. Your Honor. Mr. Rawlings, on many occasions, you have stated that you hate Thomas, correct?
That is not correct. I've never said that. That's an interpretation that Sean got it from somewhere. I have never, ever in the whole wide world said I hated Tom Rawlings.
Okay. But
Tom's.
would you agree that this sentiment that my client attributes to you, he reminded you of this in his text messages with you, correct?
Say that again.
My client has had the position that you have stated that you hate Thomas, correct?
He seems to have that theme, yes. I've seen it several times in all these texts that have gone on for the last several months.
Okay.
I have never
And you never blocked Sean in the history of your text messages, correct?
Did you hear the question, ma'am?
Yeah, she's going to answer the question.
He's asking if you
Ask him what he's here for.
blocked his text message.
Ms. Rawlings, did you hear Mr. Leone's question?
say that again, please.
Did you hear, Mr. Leone asked you if you had ever blocked Mr. Rawlings on his texts?
Sean is now blocked from my text. Yes, he is.
No, okay.
So what I'm getting at is page 5 of 23 for your exhibit 2. Do you recall up until this letter you wrote on June 1st, 2024, ever blocking Sean?
I didn't block Sean until recently.
Okay. But Sean, would you agree that Sean has told you not to contact you, not to contact him?
Okay, ask it again, please.
Would you agree that Sean has told you not to contact him in the history of your correspondence with him?
In some of these recent texts, yes, he's asked me to not be in contact.
Okay. And generally, the text messages that you have exchanged with Sean that have been submitted with the court, these were a dialogue between you two, correct?
Correct.
And you voluntarily corresponded with him, correct?
Correct.
So were you present at Thomas's home on July 10th, 2024?
In the afternoon, I went to pick him up to take him to the bank. And that's when
And
I found him not at home.
and Sean was there as well, correct?
Say what?
Sean was there as well, correct?
He came later in the afternoon.
And were you around Sean when deputies were not there?
Did I what?
Were you around Sean when there was no sheriff's deputies there?
I think his neighbor probably called him. His neighbor Leonard probably called him and said, "You've got deputies over at your house."
No, ma'am, I think we're just talking past each other. My question is, were you physically present at the home when deputies were not there?
We're not there. No, I was not present then. Let me restate that. I had gone over to the house to pick Tom up to take him to the bank. I found him not there. So I began driving around the neighborhood thinking he might be wandering. And I did not find him. I got back to the house. That's when the deputies showed up when I got back to the house.
Okay, but later on in the day, you were still present at the home when deputies had left, correct?
The deputies were there. I was taking the dog to the kennel because the kennel was going to be closing.
So what I'm asking you is, were you at the home on July 10th after deputies had left?
Well, I had left, but when the deputies left, I left. Is that what you're asking? I did not.
Yes.
I did not
But
remain
did
in
you-
the house.
Did you leave concurrent with the deputies, or did you wait for a while and then leave after they left?
I probably concurrently left when the deputies left.
Okay.
I believe. I really don't remember, but I pretty much left right away.
And so your testimony is you don't recall how long you were there for.
I'm fairly sure that I left when the deputies left.
And you previously stated that Sean has long held the opinion of not speaking with law enforcement, correct?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, ma'am. So your prior testimony was that Sean has always been of the opinion not to speak with law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So on this particular occasion, when he spoke with you, were you surprised to hear that he was saying, could you please not speak with law enforcement?
I was not surprised at that at all.
Okay. So would you agree that Sean's opinion of not speaking with law enforcement is not just applicable to this case, but a general philosophy from which he lives his life?
Correct.
And you were aware that Sean was on your Home Depot credit card when you were speaking with law enforcement, correct?
Yes, but as I said earlier, there was so much emotion going on that afternoon that when I was called that evening by the deputies about the Home Depot card, I did not answer properly.
Okay. And you were subsequently aware that Sean had been charged in Thurston County Superior Court with being in possession of your Home Depot credit card, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were contacted by defense counsel for Sean, Mr. Eric Pilon, correct?
Not contacted by anybody, no.
And being contacted by Eric Pilon, you agreed to give a statement to Mr. Pilon, correct?
I was not contacted by him.
Okay. Ultimately, that criminal case was dismissed when the prosecutor reached the correct understanding about the credit card, correct?
Right. I had called them and I had answered their note that they had sent to me. And I said, this needs to be dismissed. This is not correct. Sean is totally authorized to use that Home Depot card.
So would you agree that you were mistaken when you first made those representations to the Thurston County Sheriff?
Yes, I agree to that.
Okay.
Mr.
And sorry, man. And the regarding the HELOC, you kept the draw period on this loan open longer than you had to, correct?
Correct.
And this resulted in interest continuing to accrue on this HELOC, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you agree that those cameras that you initially discussed in your petition were put there with your agreement?
Yes, they were. Initially.
And you asked Sean to maintain those cameras at your home, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you wish to have your Mr. Sean Rawlings testify?
I have Leonard Smith, who I'd like to call. He was present on the 10th. But I mean, would Your Honor entertain a halftime motion to dismiss?
No,
Okay.
I think there's a sufficient.
I've
I've read through the text. Not all the texts have been identified, but based on the text included in her declaration, didn't hear Mr. Rawlings really address any of those that were cited, that were referenced by Mr. Kean, but I think there's sufficient information within those texts where we're going to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Smith, you want to?
I would like to. So he's in the waiting room.
Yeah, he was not in the waiting room. He's actually on the Zoom call. So, Mr. Smith, you need to unmute.
So, Mr. Smith, who are you in relation to Barbara and Sean?
I am Sean's best friend and Barbara's former neighbor to Thomas Rawlings.
Okay. So on July 10th, 2024, did you have contact with Barbara?
I did.
Did you have contact with Sean?
Yes, sir, I did.
Where was this?
Outside of Thomas's front yard.
Did you see her interacting with law enforcement?
I did.
At any point, did you see, was Sean present when she was interacting with law enforcement?
Yes, he was.
Okay. At any point, did you see Barbara present as if she was under any kind of fear?
No, none whatsoever.
How close to her were you?
Arm's length away.
Did you see Sean try to exhibit any kind of influence on her that day?
None whatsoever. We were talking.
And tell me, what did you observe?
Well, what happened was Caitlin came over and woke me up. I worked evenings at the time. Woke me up, said there was officers and sheriffs over there. And when I came over, nobody of an adult presence was there. So that's why Caitlin came to get me. I called Sean and said, hey, there are some deputies here and they're here talking about your dad and there's somebody asking questions. So you might want to get here. He informed me he was in a meeting and he was about 30 to 35 minutes away. So I kind of bridged the gap in between them, the time he was getting there and conversations of and answering the basic questions I could. After the deputies left, Sean, Barbara, Caitlin, Harlan, which is her great grandson, were all standing around her vehicle because she had some gifts, clothes for her grandson, Harlan. And we were trying to keep Oliver, her dog, inside the vehicle while Caitlin was they were sitting on the lift gate underneath the tailgate. It was a nice, friendly conversation. We talked about dogs because we all have dogs from Sean's dog, Delilah. And we were all laughing, goofing, talking about what our dogs do. And also she was holding Harlan to get, it was a very friendly conversation.
And Sean was present, correct?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, we were all. It was Sean, me, Barbara, Harlan, Caitlin. We were all there talking after the deputies left. So, with Barbara saying she wasn't there, I don't understand. She said she was there for a good 35 minutes after the deputies left. We were all talking like we used to as like a family would talk.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Nothing further.
Any questions for Mr. Smith, Mr. Kean?
And no questions for Mr. Smith.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. You're free to mute back up. You're free to leave if you wish. You're free to stay and watch as well, but you're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Goodbye, everybody.
So we will call Mr. Rawlings.
Mr. Rawlings, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Go ahead. I'll hear from you.
So, Mr. Rawlings, have you reviewed the text messages filed by your mother with the court? And so much of the testimony here has been about common themes. What do you think the common theme of these text messages is in your mind?
Pretty consistently your poor treatment of my dad.
You need to speak louder so Mr. Kean can hear you.
And so I'll restate the question. So we discussed a lot about common themes in this case. Generally, what do you think the common theme of these text messages filed with the court is?
Her kind of obsessive involvement in my father's affairs and her real disdain and dislike for my dad just as an individual.
And so this notion that she hasn't stated that she has never stated that she hated your father. What do you have to say to that?
It's patently false. She specifically made that statement to me personally, all of my children, even my father's sister when she was staying there with my mother in my mother's home. It's been said countless times in front of many people.
And yeah, she was helping your father, correct?
She absolutely was, yeah, for quite some time.
Oh, so about how long when did your father require her help?
She helped him with any sort of medical needs, doctor's appointments.
My question was, when did your father require her help?
Oh, it's 2022 or early in 2022 is when I would say she really started helping consistently on a day-to-day basis.
Was your mother estranged from your father leading up to this?
Yes, they've been divorced for 30 some years.
What was the level of communication during that divorce period?
Very minimal. I'm coordinating things like maybe family events or Christmas, type stuff.
Okay, so these text messages submitted to the court. This allegation, or not this allegation, but your statement here, he constantly says how he's afraid of you and intimidated because he's going to be talked to like he's a useless dolt and diminished as incompetent. Statements like this that you say your mother made, why did you say those things in text messages?
Because she had been consistently treating him in that manner. As I had observed, my kids had observed, Leonard had observed, it had begun to get very, very, very harsh and consistent.
And how? Give us some examples of what your mother would do to treat him that way.
Any word that came out of his mouth, she would completely diminish and demean him and act like he's a fool and talk over him, and very, very belittling in her behavior. And there's just he was very, very intimidated on a constant basis by the end of things. He constantly said how he was scared of her, and it was to the point of being very unhealthy for both of them at a minimal level.
Okay, so this on page 2 of 23 for Exhibit 2, you refer to your father's desire to be a sovereign human being. What was your mother's position on your father's sovereignty and ability to care for himself?
She had no regard for anything to do with his autonomy or sovereignty. It was very much he needs to be made to do whatever she felt should be done, and that was it. There was no consideration for his humanity.
And what was your role in your father's life this time besides being son?
I helped him with the construction around his house, cleaning up, things of that nature.
Well, what I'm getting at is, did you have a power of attorney over your father?
I did, yeah. I was designated as primary power of attorney.
Were there any special clauses within that power of attorney that you were aware of?
There was specifically a no guardianship clause that he had included in his power of attorney.
were you in the discharge of your duties as power of attorney? Did this clause ring any significance in how you went about that job?
It did, in that it was very expressly a desire of his to stay in his home, and it made it very difficult to do anything that might benefit him in terms of helping him transition outside the house.
Who was the main strike that? Did anybody try to angle away or try to diminish your father's ability to maintain his sovereignty here?
And my mom specifically.
And would you say that the purpose of a lot of your text messages with your mother is to maintain your father's wishes?
Absolutely, and based on the fact that this was an everyday ongoing occurrence, she refused to take any like direction to back up or ease up on him, and so every day this scenario is repeating itself.
Okay, so I'm directing you to page 3 of 23 of his exhibit 2. This sentence starting, if you cannot interface. Can you please read this for me?
If you cannot interface with him without this constant obsession with forced relocation, then you need not interface with him for a while, at least until it is not consuming you. In any event, it is not your place to stir up other family members to your cause. He did not ask for that treatment at any point in his existence. You have been providing him amazing support and organization, but in the midst of all of that, you cannot detest him and want to see him gone. So you cannot not detest him and want to see him gone. So there is obviously no rectifying your hatred, which then means you shouldn't be creating a scenario where you have to interact with someone who affects you like that.
Okay, so were you at any point in making this communication to her, telling her that she would no longer be able to associate with your family?
No.
Why did you make this communication?
To try and encourage her to see some, rational decision-making process to separate herself from this truly like obsessive involvement in just really, really, really negative behavior.
Okay, and do you acknowledge in your text messages that you at some points use profanity?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever use that profanity as a means to to annoy, alarm, harass, or bring down your mother?
Never. No, I just swear that is a rule of habit. No way directed at her personally. I never swore, called her out of her name, or swore at her.
How long has your mother heard you swear for?
25, 30 years.
Okay. So I believe it's in exhibit 2. So these text messages with all caps that you sent your mother here, which would be exhibits 2, pages 11 and 12. Why did you use all caps here?
This is very recently, and it had just become exacerbated with trying to beg her and plead and convince her to stop abusing my dad. And so I texted her in all caps for the first time ever to see if it might.
What was the concern you had leading up to this?
There had just been an incident where she had taken my dad to Walgreens or Rite Aid, one of those places, and my dad overbuys things. He's a hoarder, he overbuys things, but as an aside, he's long had multitudes of very high-end shaving equipment. She took him to Rite Aid or Walgreens and made him buy a bag of the cheapest single blade disposable razors that they could find, and then attempt to shave his face, which was very long at that point. Like, I'm not saying stubble, like, half inch light beard, forced him to try and shave his face with these single blade razors, which was.
I'm just going to answer. I mean, this really isn't relevant. His shaving habits and things of that sort.
Yeah,
so no one's objected to it, but I don't need to hear that.
Okay,
that's not necessary.
That's why the caps message.
But for instance, it looks pretty alarming here in all caps. Stay the F away. You hate him. He hates neither of you. Have any business with each other. Stop trying to pick it apart. Have it all taken care of. Why'd you send this?
In an attempt to have her stop doing those things, to make a good rational decision to remove herself from a very unhealthy situation.
Okay. So in the history of your text messaging to your mother, has she ever blocked you?
Never.
Did she?
I wasn't aware that she just said that she has blocked me recently, but I wasn't aware because I have not tried to communicate with her for many, many months.
July 10th, were you, July 10th, what happened?
My father was taken against his will and removed from his home against his will and taken by the EMTs. At that point, the place is unknown. I had no idea where he was.
Did you express
I'm going to
concern?
stop you for a second
Thank you.
because I have a question. In that police report for that date, I'd asked maybe to stay away from this, but we've gone into it. There's a fairly graphic description of the state of his living arrangements at the time. Do you agree with that?
Some of it, yeah. He's
Okay.
been a hoarder his home.
No, I mean, there's not the hoarder, not the clutter. It appeared to the police officer that he had urinated on himself frequently, multiple times within the clothes he was wearing. I think there was defecation. The house reeked of urine. It was in terrible shape. And again, I'm just kind of hitting the high points here. Is that true? Not true? Exaggerated? Not
exaggerated.
Okay.
By if Leonard could have spoke to that.
Okay. And I guess my question is, against my experience, they don't remove people from homes absent some fairly graphic circumstances. And my question to you is, how did that happen? How did they get to the point where he was being taken out of that home?
There was an incident approximately 10 days prior to that where they had come out the first time, and the deputy had kind of.
That's right. The first time is when the deputy submitted that description,
Yeah.
and then, like I say, I mean,
so my father's.
and apparently somebody found some things because he was in fact removed, which again, not necessarily germane to all this, but
They ITA'd him basically.
yeah, I'm familiar with the process. My understanding is, how did it get to the point where that happened? When
His home has been in that condition for 15, 20 years at a minimum. It's a problem that he's had ongoing.
okay, you can continue, Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Your Honor. But your mother, did she ever? Okay, so I guess we had turned to July 10th. So July 10th, could you locate your father?
I could not, no.
Did you ask your mother where your father was?
I did, yes.
And what was her response to that?
And she said that she had no idea, and basically got really angry and told me that if I was going to keep asking her, that she was never going to speak to me again.
Okay. And what was your response to this?
My response was to get off the phone with her, essentially. I said, this does not have to be going down this way, and you know where my father is because you were speaking to the individuals who took him.
So does your mother have any trouble telling you her sentiments about a particular situation?
My mom doesn't have any trouble telling anyone her sentiments about any situation.
Okay. And to this general proposition that this was a one-sided.
Pardon me. Excuse me, counsel. I cannot hear the witness testifying.
Okay, good. To speak up, Mr. Rawlings.
Sorry.
So to Mr. Kean, how long ago did we lose you?
And just the last question, if you could just repeat the last question and have the witness answer, that'd be sufficient. Thank you.
Great. So does your mother have any trouble telling you, or anybody else for that matter, when she disagrees with a given situation or what's been said?
Absolutely not. She's very outspoken.
And to this notion of this being a case of a son imposing upon his mother, his beliefs about the situation, what do you say to that? Would she have been able to state her position on something without fear?
Absolutely. She would and does, and it's very much her personality. She's very outspoken.
Okay. And did you file the phone call history that you had with your mother with the court?
I did.
And about how many phone calls are reflected in those?
I think 2, maybe. Just that, but very few.
Were those phone calls ever more than 2 minutes?
No.
Okay. So phone call on July 10th. Can you characterize that for the court?
Yeah, my daughter called after she had arrived at my dad's and had been confronted by deputies and had been told that my father had been taken away and that my mom was currently off getting my dad's dog into a boarding facility. And she called me to tell me basically, Pop's not here. He's missing. They took him. And so, and Grandma is taking his dog to this Northwind kennel. So I immediately called my mom to find out where the heck my dad was and what was going on. She had obviously been there. She basically, I was very upset that he was missing and had been taken, and asked her why she wouldn't have contacted me or someone in our family while she was there with all of this going on to make us aware that my father was being taken so someone could help and intervene on his behalf. And she said the police should have done that and I'd need to talk to them. And it was incredibly frustrating.
Did you speak to her in any way, shape, or form meant to shake her up or harass her?
No, no, absolutely.
Were you frustrated?
I was very frustrated and scared for my dad.
In any way, shape, or form, did you intend to make her not cooperate with answering questions posed by law enforcement?
No, no way. She would never not do what she wants to do anyways, but I certainly had no intent on preventing her from talking to anybody.
Do you,
I'm sorry, could the witness repeat that last answer?
I certainly had no intent on preventing her from talking to anyone.
at any point, did you see your mother have trouble communicating, operating a cell phone or anything as a result of your interactions with her?
She was kind of stumbling with the phone, but only because the deputies were reaching for it. And she was surrounded by 3 different law enforcement officers, all kind of crowding in around her. It seemed pretty intense.
Okay. So during the course of your father being, I guess, leading up to your father being taken by APS from home, how often was your mother at his home?
At least twice a day, on almost every day.
And did your mother ever take extra care to help your father out with his clothing, with his living circumstances, and general hygiene?
Like a little with his laundry and getting it laundered, but in general, like the condition of his home and hygiene wise, everyone in the family is apprised of the condition of his house and how he lives. It's very difficult to see, but it's a malady. It's not something that just happened overnight. She's, generally in his home frequently for the last several years. For the record, his house is actually in considerably better condition than it had been in for a majority of that time over the last couple of years. It's gotten.
And what steps did you take to get the home to that position?
Initially, my aunt had located a cleaning company that specialized in homes like this, where they're just a hoarding type situation, where the disastrous mess and kind of just disgusting conditions. And we hired them several times to come into his home and remove loads and loads of garbage and all of the carpets and things that were just completely disgusting. He used to not let anyone come in to do that or even remove like a scrap of paper. So it was a big step forward.
Okay. And did you ever do anything to check that? Regarding there has been testimony regarding the home equity line of credit on your mother's home. Was that given to you with her agreement?
It was, yes.
And did you ever was there any influence exhibited on her for that to be issued?
No, there wasn't. No, she offered.
And have you ever are you aware of the testimony she's made regarding where the payments on that went?
Yes, I am.
And what is how much did you pay per month on this HELOC?
It's approximately it's a adjustable rate, so it's approximately $1,200 to $1,300 a month.
Okay, and why do you imagine that the principal? First off, do you know if the principal has been affected or not?
As far as I know, it has not. The interest-only payments are made the way the HELOC structured. In the draw period, the payments that are made are interest-only, and I had been begging her to have the loan transition to the payback or the repayment period so that the payment structure changes.
And she has not done that.
Not that I'm aware of. Not as of July.
Okay, and to the criminal investigation that was conducted against you, did your mother agree with your defense attorney to give a statement?
Yes, according to my defense attorney and his paralegal, she made an appointment to come give a deposition. Sorry.
And what was how far after the filing of the charges was this?
This was the following Monday, so 7 days.
And at that point, did she understand? From dealing with your attorney, do you understand if everyone involved with the case at that point realized that you were authorized on that card?
Yeah, she was needing to clarify it with my defense attorney as what was the purpose for that appointment.
And why do you think she failed to appear for that?
I think that she wanted to have the charge continue to cause me to have quite a detrimental scenario in my life and be restricted from her home.
So ultimately, what are you asking the court to do with this petition?
I'd like the court to dismiss it. I think it's false at honest pretense.
And does your mother characterize any exchange you've ever had with her when you're on good terms as nasty?
No.
And when do things become, quote, nasty in her eyes?
After there was some back and forth with my dad's finances, and double payments were being made on various bills. Checks were written that she had been kind of writing checks to an individual that I was not apprised the checks were being written, causing his accounts to bounce, which was creating a bunch of friction. My daughter had realized through kind of just happenstance at my mom's house, had glanced over and seen that my mom had a checkbook with both my father and her name on the checks, as if it were a mutual account, which made no sense because they've been divorced for 30 years. And so in doing a little digging, we'd come to find out that she had somehow had herself added to my father's bank account.
Yet did she accuse you of mismanaging that money?
She had been, yeah, me and all my children, pretty much everyone by herself.
No further questions.
Any questions, Mr. Kean?
No questions for Mr. Rawlings.
So go ahead. I'll hear argument then. I'll hear from you, Mr. Kean, and then I'll hear from Mr. Leone. And then I'll be ready to rule.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is obviously a difficult case, and reading through the text messages, having the background of the deplorable conditions that Mr. Rawlings as a vulnerable adult was living in, and my client's efforts to help him, and her concerns about the financial mismanagement of Mr. Rawlings' accounts. The multiple overdraws are addressed in Petitioner's Exhibit 3 in the police report. It's clear that there was a lot of information that Mr. Rawlings did not want to come to light. And my client, Miss Barbara Rawlings, was well within her rights and had a legitimate and lawful interest in ensuring that Mr. Rawlings was safe, his finances were taken care of, and also that her son wasn't doing anything that was going to generate criminal liability. And in response, what my client received were harassing tirades that were both insulting, would constitute harassment, that did in fact cause her fear. And these messages are such that a person receiving these messages would be seriously alarmed. They would feel they're being harassed. That's detrimental to that person. There's certainly a course of conduct, and these messages in this situation are certainly such that it would cause a substantial amount of emotional distress to someone, and did in fact cause substantial emotional distress to the petitioner. And there's certainly an element of coercive control, both with the taking seeking a loan of $50,000 to repair a house that somehow spirals into $150,000 HELOC, with a complete refusal to engage to come up with a payment plan other than making interest-only payments. And these messages show that Mr. Rawlings is engaging in a pattern of psychological aggression and intimidation. And it was for the purpose of discouraging Ms. Rawlings from anything that would bring to light the condition and that Mr. Rawlings was living in, where it was clear he could not care for himself. In the police reports, law enforcement responds because a neighbor found that a bullet was shot from inside Mr. Rawlings' home through walls and into the neighbor's gutter. And an APS later found shell casings in there. It was a very unsafe environment. Mr. Rawlings knew that when law enforcement and APS responded, a lot of very problematic things were going to come to light. And it may have been his purpose for these messages that are gaslighting, that are accusatory, some directly discouraging her, or like saying you are the cause of my being investigated for elder abuse, and trying to and flipping the script as much as possible in a way that is emotionally damaging. I mean, it's gaslighting is kind of the best label for it, and it's very emotionally draining. In the police reports, they describe Ms. Rawlings as being fearful, being worried, not wanting, asking for her name to be left out of it, not wanting law enforcement to see, not wanting Sean to see her speaking with law enforcement. She has a reasonable fear of retaliation and retribution, and she has experienced an ongoing pattern of unlawful harassment as well as coercive control, and does warrant a protection order. And I know that Ms. Rawlings is concerned that this type of behavior would continue in excess of 1 year if only a 1 year order was granted.
Mr. Leone?
Thank you, Your Honor.
So before you start, there is currently a vulnerable protection order in place, correct?
Oh, that is a temporary order of protection issued by Court Commissioner Rebecca Zinn.
Is there a hearing on that?
There's a return hearing on the 15th, and we're only out that far just due to some unfortunate things going on in the Rollins family.
Okay.
And that's yet to be litigated.
Yes. Go ahead.
So we have a declaration of Gary Preble in the record as well. I mean, APS does 2 investigations, and we're months down the line with nothing being pursued. In Mr. Preble's opinion, the case is going to go nowhere, and that's my client's counsel for that. And it's a declaration in this file. So I think that case is what it is. Unfortunately, just comment on that before going to unlawful harassment here. This is a situation that was really uncurable. Everybody knew the conditions of the alleged vulnerable adult here, and we have a petitioner in this case who was there multiple times per week, yet these same conditions were present despite my client's efforts, despite her efforts, despite my client's daughter's efforts. It's a very sad situation. I think ultimately what happened with the incident with the BB, with the shot being fired, ended up being a BB gun, and that ultimately, I think, explained the hole in the neighbor's gutter. Okay, but anyway, turning to this case, unlawful harassment. This court already read the definition. Before we go into real analysis, I think that's, when we look at the end of the definition, a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress and must actually cause substantial emotional distress to the petitioner. This last bit here, I think it's important to note that on our Zoom screen here, the petitioner was smiling during portions of her testimony and presented in a not very fearful, but very, I guess, almost jovial manner in her testimony. We have testimony from Mr. Smith that the petitioner was not in fear on the 10th. And unfortunately, the petitioner's testimony here was she couldn't really recall what was going on the 10th, who left first, was she even there after law enforcement? But we have my client's testimony and we have Mr. Smith's testimony saying that, hey, we were all there together, and she was not scared. And this was after the vast majority of the text messages that have been filed in this record were sent to her. We have testimony from my client saying that the petitioner was just as colorful in communication with him and stood up for her position consistently throughout my client's interactions with her. Generally, we do not believe that there has been an overarching course of conduct here related to the petitioner, but even if there is one assumed for arguments, turning to the course of conduct definition, subsection 1, any current contact between the parties was initiated by the respondent or was initiated by both parties. We have my client actually in the history of the text message conversation blocking the petitioner, and the petitioner not blocking my client until after he had been criminally charged, which was under very mistaken circumstances that she unfortunately could not clarify for law enforcement enough, and then refused to clarify with his attorney, end up my client being charged for some time. That factor, I certainly think, turns in favor of my client. The respondent has been given clear notice that all future contact with the petitioner is unwanted. Again, the blocking didn't really occur. There was no actual notice given to my client. even after in the history of these text messages, my client would word something strongly, often without profanity, and often circling back to, hey, I hope we can work this out. I hope you realize your flaws. Contact resumed, and we didn't actually rise to actual notice. A design to alarm, annoy, or harass. My concern about this is we all have a right to advocate for our positions as it comes to care of a loved one and any familiar issue.
I think a
Familial.
point I tried to make earlier is it's clear to me, maybe I'm just reading between the lines inaccurately, this guy wasn't cared for. He wasn't. And we can all sit around and point fingers, well, it was my fault, it was her fault, or something. You know, I read the police report, and I saw the description. I don't know who was supposed to be doing it, but this guy was not getting the care he needed. There's no question about that, in my mind.
Absolutely. But I think what I'm getting at in the analysis of the statute here is the finger pointing that Your Honor just mentioned. And we have a right to point fingers.
No, I'm not disputing that.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Absolutely. But this is, once again, both parties were colorful. Mine more so in text messages, but nothing ever vulgar, no threats, and vulgar in the sense of anything that's too bad. Yes, there was occasional profanity used, but it's unfortunately, and it's always kind of has been, one's ability to emphasize a particular point. So speaking mind about how finances are handled and how many groceries are in the fridge is not harassing, and standing up to an accusation a family member has made about you. Hey, where did the $9,000 is not all yours? And my client rebutting back and saying you have mismanaged his funds, and saying you shouldn't even be on his bank account, is totally not of a threat of being designed to alarm, annoy, or harass. The respondent acting pursuant to any statutory authority. So there's really not a statutory authority here, but my client is Thomas Rawlings is POA and can speak his mind regarding his father's care, especially when it comes to the non-guardianship clause and his father's desire to stay sovereign in his home. The respondent's course of conduct has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with privacy or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive living environment. Again, the respondent, the petitioner, was not intimidated at all. We have Leonard's testimony and my client's testimony to that point. And we have no previous court orders between these parties. So, Your Honor, my client did not run afoul of RCW 7105. This was not an unlawful course of conduct pertaining to his mother. This is an unfortunate situation, but the legislature didn't give us 7105 to plead every time we have a family dispute. It's a shield and not a sword, and in this petition, it's not warranted being granted.
All right.
The truth hurts sometimes, Your Honor, and my client unfortunately confronted the petitioner with the truth regarding her knowledge of his father's whereabouts, the financial history, and just the ugliness of their divorce.
So as I said before, unlawful harassment is a knowing and willful course of conduct directed at a specific person, just as conduct seriously unarms, annoys, harasses, or is detrimental to such persons, and so serves no legitimate or lawful purpose. And the course of conduct is a series of acts over a period of time. Clearly, this all started because Thomas Rawlings, former husband of Barbara Rawlings, father of Sean Rawlings, was in terrible shape. It's in the file about Mr. Sean Rawlings disagreed with it, but the description contained in the police report is horrible. And again, apparently that there was an ITA was conducted, and then he was in a vulnerable adult. Petition was filed. That's a temporary order was entered. That's set for hearing at some point later. My understanding is that the elder Rawlings was with your brother at the moment,
Correct.
And then people can correct me if that's wrong. Who's here from North Carolina looking after him? But the thing that frankly bothers me about all this is the text is what I tried to steer folks to at the beginning, which some was paid attention to, is Sean Rawlings' response to this situation with regard to his mother is basically, why do you hate dad so much? And he goes on to, and again, just some examples. So, at one point he says, give me just a second. I'm going to read some of these. You have been providing him amazing support and organization. But then he goes on to say in the same text, but in the midst of all that, you can't not detest him when you want to see him gone. So there's obviously no effect to see him gone. Basically, he's saying to his mother, the ex-wife of his husband, of his father, you know, you want to see my father dead, your ex-husband dead. Another could, yeah, you know what this, in other texts, you know that you just wish he was dead. And there's, let me scroll through these. Because you lied to me about telling no one about Pops' loan education. You're lying to me about my aunt and most likely my brother and his wife, clearly without remorse. Basically, what I'm getting at is she's just trying to communicate the situation to other family members. You were the cause of my being investigated for elder abuse based on false claims and accusation, all of which are lies from your mouth. So don't talk to me about having my back in the past. And then he goes on to say that how much she must hate his father, her ex-husband. And I'm kind of hitting the highlights here, but that's an example of a series of texts. It was from Sean Rawlings to his mother, the ex-wife of his father. And I'm finding that that's just a series of emotional abuse towards his mother. And so I am finding that is harassing behavior. And I am going to enter an order that, and again, those texts, I hit the highlights, but there's many more in the file. And yeah, next slide here. I cannot and will not be this is Sean Rawlings. I cannot and will not be the fodder in the wake of the destructive path you're carving on the way to make sure Pop meets the demise that you have assigned to him. I mean, to repeat those things over and over when, as far as I can tell, people are just trying to take care of the guy. And basically his response is, you just want him dead. And so, and I'm oversimplification, but that's behavior that I do find harassing. It's certainly annoying and alarming to be receiving that sort of series of text messages. So again, I will find that is a pattern of harassment. I'm going to enter an order that you're not to have any contact with your mother. It doesn't sound like you really oppose that. I just, based on everything I've heard so far, you have no problem with that. But it is going to take the place of a formal order. You're not to contact her. You're not to cause her any harm. Don't engage in stalking behavior. Don't come within 1,000 feet of, and again, this doesn't include litigation. If there's court hearings where everybody needs to be present, that doesn't count, of course. Don't come within 1,000 feet of her resident, or her place of employment if she's working. And this order will be in place for a period of a year.
No question.
And I hope your father, your ex-husband, gets the care that he needs, because clearly he needs it. And if you want a copy of the order, I'll give it to you in just a second.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, we'll get a copy.
Or you can get a copy of the district court website if you wish.
Thank you for
Come on, Zoom call there, free to go. And is there a David Fox who I don't see on the who I don't see on the Zoom call? Is David Fox here and present? And then in looking at the file there, ma'am, it looks like you were not able to get him served. Were you able to get him served?
Oh, no, he was served.
Okay, give me just a minute.
He was served on Thursday, the 5th. And I sent that paperwork to the court via email with the email you all provided.
Right. Give me just a second. It just might not have made it into the file yet.
Okay.
We didn't get it for some reason. We're going to put an email in the chat function and just have you send it to that email, please. And I'll come back to you in a minute.
All right, I will do that right now.
Phoenix Charles is here. And then were you able to get Jordan Gorin served?
I don't know. I gave it to the Olympia Police Department.
Okay.
And, like,
We haven't got anything yet.
we called the non-emergency line and stuff, but I don't know. And also I've been keeping contact with the officer.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't gotten.
Give me just a second here, ma'am. So we don't have proof of service. So what might have to happen is I'll reissue the temporary, give you a piece of paper that reissues the temporary, take it to the Olympia Police Department, and then, yeah, they'll need to just kind of include that in the service. What's that?
Be like, do it, please.
Yeah, but sometimes, well, it's not quite as easy as you think. Sometimes they can't find someone. Sometimes people sometimes you'll try and dodge service.
Yeah,
So you never really know. But so stand by for a minute, ma'am. We'll reissue the temporary order. You can come up, ma'am. You can come up, take a seat there. And any one of those seats. Seats. Chairs, that's all right.
Thought you were handing me something.
I will in a minute.
Okay.
We're going to we do these for 14 days.
Mhm. What happens if she keeps dodging it?
Well, eventually then, we can't enter an order till he's served, basically. And I know, and I remember
She
apologized. The
Okay.
conversation that we had last time. I think there's a no contact order in place in the other case, so that still remains. But sometimes if they can't get people served, then I can't enter an order. That's just the way it is. And sometimes, and a lot of times, if you can't find someone, it also means they're not bothering you.
Right.
And so hang on just a second. So right now, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. In a couple of weeks, it'll be me again. We'll have a different conversation, and then we'll just kind of see where this goes.
Well,
But I can't enter an order without service. Go ahead. You can
Right.
say something.
If, but like, if the next one, they aren't able to serve it to her again, like, would I just get another temporary
We
one?
can reissue. We
Okay.
can
Okay.
reissue. There's not a time limit on that, but eventually it's like, yeah. I mean, again, I'll just leave it open at this time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, that was my understanding.
We don't have a copy of that.
You can get that from Superior Court. And so you go over there, they're right across the, let me give me just a second. Right across the courtyard here, go over to building number 2. Yeah, and if you need a cause number on that, I can tell you what that is. And then you go over there. Do you know that?
Do the
It's
case number?
Yeah,
Do you have that?
it's 24-1.
Hold on, sorry. Okay, oh, you have it?
No, I
Okay,
don't.
24
That's 34. That's the cause number. If you go over there and talk to them at Superior Court, they should be able to give you a copy of the order.
Okay.
So you-
Does that, does she need to do this one?
Well, I'm not going to tell her what you should or shouldn't do. It's not appropriate for me to advise people.
Fair,
But
fair.
if,
It shows service. but
okay,
not
so hang on
like-
just a second. So, that's a decision that she needs to make. There is a no contact order in place, and sometimes people rely on that. Sometimes people want a separate order in this court as well. That's not a decision that I make, and I'm not going to advise. I don't want you to take this as advice one way or the other. But for that, did you get the? I'll give you this. In this case, though, we'll see you back here on September 16th, 2 weeks from today. And then when she prints that for you, when she calls you to come up, come on up.
Sorry. So go back, sit here right now.
No, you can stay right there.
Okay.
Just don't- So I reviewed your petition. It does appear that Ms. Gorin was served,
Mhm.
but she's not here.
Okay.
And it's actually 9:30, which is time enough. And so I'm going to enter a default in your favor, the default order.
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
That means that the protection, the temporary that was granted is just going to remain in effect for the next year.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And the parameters of that order are similar to the temporary order in that, so as I was saying a long time ago, the parameters of the order are there is proof of service. The person's not to cause you any harm, not to contact you, not to engage in stalking behavior. Don't come within 1,000 feet of you, your residence, place of employment. Or your vehicle.
My son, August. should
And
be
this
on there.
includes, yes, I was gonna
Okay.
get to that.
Thank you.
This also includes, I've checked the box where, all minors named in the petition, are included in the protection order. So that includes your child.
Thank you.
And then, you could get a copy of this off the Thurston County District Court website. And this order will be in place for 1 year.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So you're asking for an order against the same person. You've been here a couple of times. I don't see that they've been served. They have to be served on both cases, right? You can take a seat. So,
I gave it to the police department, but I don't know where it's gone from there.
Yeah.
Should I get another one? And
we can,
find
yeah, what we
somebody
should
else to
do,
serve
if
it?
you want, did you know that person who was just on here, that petitioner? Ms. Lee?
no.
They were able to track her. I was gonna say you could speak with her to see how they found.
Right.
and
Oh,
I'm-
yeah, I thought I heard something about Jordan. And
Yes, she was
So-
asking for an order against the same person and she
Oh,
was able,
no way.
yes, way. And so she was here to get them, I don't think I've ever said that in court before, but
That's
yes, that
crazy.
exactly happens. So
Oh,
hang on just a
wow.
second. So,
That doesn't surprise me though. Damn.
okay. So that's other language that shouldn't be used in court now.
I'm so sorry. I forgot
Okay.
that's not it.
And we'll reissue it. We'll try another 2 weeks from today, which is October 14th.
Is there a way for me, like, can I get like another order like given to me so then I can like find somebody else to serve it?
Yeah, we're gonna get one to you right now.
Perfect.
And then you need to go, so we'll make a copy of this right now. The copy of the rest of the service packet can get emailed to you. Once you get that, you're free to go.
Okay.
Okay. And then Phoenix Charles.
I'm here for, I'm
not
here
here.
for her, but
I'm here, yes.
so that
Okay.
you'll know that the Superior Court has been fixed and she doesn't need to continue with this.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we can just dismiss that out then.
Yes,
And
thank
I
you.
think you've been here a couple times before, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So then that'll be dismissed. Thank you. You're free to leave the Zoom call.
What was that, Your Honor? I didn't hear him.
No, that
sorry.
didn't have anything to do with your case, Ms. Pardee. You can go ahead and mute back up. I'm just taking attendance right now. Michaela Green. Okay. So Ms. Wagner, I'm going to come back to you.
Yes,
And
sir.
so, can you give me more, please?
Yeah.
So I do see the email interaction you've had with the process server. Looks like you hired Northwest Process to get them. You know, there's a formal declaration they need to file, which for whatever reason we can't open on the way you said it. But based on the email, I will find that there's proper service. You need to follow up and get that filed, the declaration, which you probably see, and maybe to print that off and bring it by the court or what have you. But given that, and given his lack of appearance, I'm going to sign a default protection order. It's going to be the same as the temporary. Give me just a minute. It'll exist for 1 year as a start. You can ask to renew that before the expiration of the year. Give me just a minute there, ma'am. If you had any contact with him since the order's been served.
About 2.5 or 3 hours after he was served, he reached out to my associate rector, Jaime Case, via email, complaining about the fact that I had him served. But other than that, he has not reached out directly to me.
Well, let's hope that continues.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fogel filed a response. Did you get a chance to see that? Second, there's some pictures. We could just print off the respondent statement.
I have additional stuff that's.
Okay, so hang on just a minute. Thank you. Ma'am, come forward, please. And I'll have you testify if you have additional information you want to say. You go take a seat. I don't need to see yours. Just give you just a minute. So ma'am, so again, before we start, and this is going to apply to everybody, what happens in these hearings, I'll swear in one side, I'll swear in the petitioner first, I'll hear from the petitioner. Following that, I'll swear in the respondent and hear from the respondent. Anybody have any witnesses you want to call? You can do that. Apparently, Ms. Gilbert, you might have a witness you wish to call. If you could do that, that's totally fine. I'll swear him in and listen from him or not. And then following that, I'll make a determination whether or not some of these cases, a temporary has been ordered, some of them haven't, but I'll make a decision whether or not the order will continue for the next year. Again, just the way things work here in court, you don't talk over the other party. I want all comments directed to me. You're going to hear things you don't like. You're going to hear things you disagree with. And there are rules we have, and I want everybody to follow them. And we'll go from there. So Ms. Gilbert, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down. Go ahead.
Eric Fogel makes me very uncomfortable because he has no reason to be in my neighborhood. He lives several miles away in an apartment where he was served the hearing protective order. He keeps breaching our property and coming into my yard. He mowed our grass, called and ordered our landscaping company to mow our grass. He has people parking in our driveway when we are out of town without our permission. He has escalated further, crossing over my property lines and even further now past my 6-foot cedar fence into my secure backyard while we were gone just for the day, and had 24 of our 20-foot high bush trees cut down in half without asking. I did not want them cut, and he had absolutely no right to cut my trees. And I am terrified that someone who doesn't live in our neighborhood thinks coming into someone's fenced backyard and cutting their trees is okay. We had just left for the day with our grandchildren who are visiting for a short term time, and I'm scared how he could know we were gone as we did not tell anyone, but he is watching us in our neighborhood. He pulled up his car next to me in the next lane at a traffic light and was waving his arms frantically at me. And the day after he was served this protection order, he came to the end of my driveway, and I have photos, and he's screaming and yelling at the end of my driveway. I have video, and I sent it to a police report I filed. And
what was he yelling?
I think he called the neighbor to complain that I had put a protection order on him. And so he was screaming, and I sent it to a police officer. I couldn't leave because he was blocking my driveway. And so then after I finally saw he left, I left for the night and stayed in a hotel. I had to work on Monday, so I came back very late the next day. I've lived there 5.5 years. He's never lived in my neighborhood.
When did all this start? You've been there for 5.5 years.
He was supposedly lived there a long time ago. He got divorced from his wife and he still comes to the neighborhood. I don't know why.
But when did this start with you
Ever
at the
since-
yard and all
Ever
that?
since we've lived there, he runs up to you if you're outside. He'll run up to you and start talking to you. And he's got no one around him. I don't know why he's in our neighborhood, but he runs up and talks to anybody if they're outside, and he just won't stop talking. He's a lonely, retired old guy that I don't know why he comes to our neighborhood and doesn't stay in his apartment area where he lives. I'm home by myself for extended periods, and he's setting off my alarms all the time, crossing our property lines. He's always doing something out in the yard, and he's looming around our property. He seems to know what we're doing at any time. Our landscaping company didn't understand English very well, so they didn't understand why this guy's telling them to cut our grass when we did not authorize to tell them to do that. I've witnessed him screaming and yelling at our trash truck. He doesn't live in the neighborhood.
Right.
I can't sleep at night, and I have a medical condition, and I even coughed blood yesterday. So I just need to get a protection order so that I can, when I call the police can come. I have someone here for protection.
Okay. Mr. Fogel, could you raise your right hand? And do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your response to, hang on just a second. Do you live in that neighborhood?
No, Your Honor. I come over here to help my ex-wife out with her yard and anything she needs done. I had lived here. I moved into this neighborhood, bought the house here in 1993. I lived here to 2013 after the divorce from my ex-wife. I went ahead and moved out at that time in August of 2013. The only reason I come over here is to help my wife out. She's by herself. She doesn't have anybody else except for my 2 daughters. One daughter lives in California. The other lives in Algona, Pacific.
Can
I respond to her?
Yes.
Last Thursday.
Hang on just a second. Yeah, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Last Thursday, I was coming for a dental appointment. I was coming down Marvin Road, going to my apartment after my appointment. I pulled up to the intersection next to the McDonald's there where Panda Express is across the street. I noticed Miss Gilbert was pulled up in her truck next to me, waiting to make a left-hand turn. I had my window down, the radio was on. All I do is look over. I was going to make a hand gesture to say hello. She raised the window and looked straight ahead. As far as the commenting on talking to her neighbor across the street, I wasn't frantic. I just asked him, how he was doing. And I'm friendly with all the neighbors in the neighborhood. Like I said, I've been here 28 years. I know everybody in the cul-de-sac. And the only reason I come over here is to help my ex-wife out. That's all. As far as being frantic or anything, I don't know what she's talking about.
Well, she says she would, well, for one thing, why are you?
I just do it as a gesture to help my wife out. That's all. We had been married 28 years.
How does mowing other people's yards help your wife out?
I had done that. It explains in my respondent statement, Your Honor. The lawns are adjoining between Mrs. Gilbert and Mrs. Fogel's. And all I did was ask her neighbor, what she put in her statement, Chris Tolley, which was watching her house. And I asked Chris, I said, hey, if you need a hand mowing Mrs. Gilbert's yard, because he was doing it while their landscaping service stopped at the end of September 2023 while they were gone for a year. And just because the 2 lawns adjoin, it takes me all of 10 or 15 minutes to mow her yard. It was just being neighborly and courteous. That's all I was doing. And when I went out and picked up Mrs. Fogel's front yard, I picked up the branches, the pine cones, and whatever was in her flower beds at the time. Because she has a big maple tree in the front, which you'll see in one of the pictures that I submitted. During the fall, the maple leaves fall and they blow into everybody else's yard, including Mrs. Fogel's and Mr. Tolley across the street. And I raked them all up, put them in Mrs. Fogel's bins. It took care of them. They took them away with the recycling. And I was just being a courteous neighbor. That's all. Your Honor, they also share a common bed next to between Mrs. Gilbert's house and Mrs. Fogel's house. I asked Mr. Gilbert before they left in July, do you mind me maintaining this while you're gone? He said, no problem. you know, he said, I'll keep it weeded, I'll keep it pruned and take care of all the weeds. And at that time, beside the house is an entrance to the gate, which is one of the pictures, which is always open. I went over and raked the pine cones and raked the branches from the three fir trees that they have over the tower over Mrs. Fogel's house.
What, do you have anything you wish to say?
We stop our service. They know we don't want our grass cut from October to April because it doesn't grow. We never get fined from our HOA. This guy tells our mowing company what level to mow our grass. He has told them when to cut our grass. We did not want him cutting our grass. We don't want him on our property. He went behind our fence and cut 24 tree bushes. They're 20 feet tall.
Yeah, I saw them. Was that on your property?
Yes, behind a fence. And we were there. He did a lot of things while we were gone. We could see him on our camera walking around our property. But when we were gone, when we were home, he's even done this, escalating. And we were with our grandkids. We left for the day. I don't know how he knew we'd be gone, but he had 24 trees cut while we were gone just for the day with our grandkids.
And Mr. Fogel, what say you to that?
And he doesn't live there. He's
Okay,
not a neighbor. He's not being
I know that. I know that.
Okay.
Your Honor, I talked to Mr. Gilbert about trimming the shrubbery on Mrs. Fogel's property twice prior to them leaving at the end of July of 2023. His explanation to me was it cost too much money. His landscaping company wanted $1,500. Now, I'm not sure if that was the whole property or just her trees. So I said, well, I'll get with you when you get back. And they got back in July. I asked him again about it, and he didn't know what they were going to do. So I said, okay, I called their landscaping company. Their landscaping company gave me a bid. They came over, they pruned the trees on Mrs. Fogel's property. They never stepped foot on Mrs. Gilbert's property whatsoever. They raked up all the branches and hauled the branches away. And we cut the branches, the things that were holding. You'll see the picture. It's picture number 1 that was overgrown on the south side of Mrs. Fogel's fence. And the damage to the fence is pushing the post over, which I rebuilt the fence in summer of 2022 at a cost of $550. I did not get any money from them. They tied their fence into her fence, which they never came and asked to do that. And her landscaping company came and did it for a price of $500.
Who paid them?
I paid them, sir.
There's pictures of
And then there's Mike Gilbert. He's not here.
No, he's out of town.
Okay.
There's pictures. He's lying. He walked up to my husband and complained that he paid $500 for them. He paid them come into our backyard and cut our trees, and we took pictures, and that's what you see. It's cut way back from our.
I see the pictures. Yeah.
He did that.
Hang on.
We didn't want them cut. He harasses us about our yard all the time. And we don't get any fines. There's nothing wrong with our yard.
So does Mrs. Fogel,
We never see him
your
with her.
ex-wife, does that they live next door to you?
She does, and we
Yeah.
never see her outside, and we never see him with her.
Is that you, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm not sure why she doesn't put a protection order on.
Well, I just do. We're not.
Yeah.
You know.
He's there like every single day from 6:30 to 9 and then leaves between noon and 4, almost every single day.
Okay, you can stop, ma'am.
Did you want these photos of him at the end of my driveway?
Yes, if you could hand them forward. So, Mr. Thank you.
He's waving
Is that his
arms.
car?
Yep, and he's waving his arms frantically. There was video I sent to the deputy.
And when was this? It's hard to, it's kind of
I
hard to
have it on
see.
my phone for
But
the date.
there's
They
some
didn't-
pictures here where basically that you were at the end of the driveway after you're being served, trying to get her attention. Is that?
I wasn't getting anybody's attention. I was talking to a neighbor, Chris Tolio.
Okay, all
I
right.
stopped
You
over there.
can go back and sit back down, ma'am. You can take these with you.
Yes, I was under the assumption you wanted it was a petition for restraining order, but I wasn't under the assumption that the restraining order was in.
It was, and you're right. You're right. But all right. And you're Mrs. Fogel, you're her next door neighbor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have anything you wish to add or say? You don't have to. You're just,
Yes, I do.
could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can put your hand down.
Your Honor, I know Eric for over 40 years. He has never been irrational or threatening to anybody, as far as my knowledge. He's very helpful to me to do what I need him to do for me. As long as we've been here, he has never had any confrontation with anybody for the 20 years that we were married and lived here. He knows just about all the 20 homes in our developments and all the people that live there, and he talked to them all the time. He's just a friendly person. I mean, he enjoyed doing the yard work a lot. He helped the neighbor with the yard. He talked to them, and they asked for his opinion as far as how to take care of their yards. And so he just enjoyed doing it. So that's why he volunteered at the golf course at the JBLM for several years. And as far as the laurel bush, Your Honor, it was pushing against my fence. It was overgrown, and I had to constantly go out there and clean up the debris and the leaves off of there all the time. So I would have took the action to have it cut down myself, because for the simple reason I say just to keep my yard nice and clean and not have the leaves blow off the place.
Mr. Fogel, I'll come back to you. She's saying that, you're coming onto their property when you're not there.
Your Honor, I came on their property 3 times to mow their lawn from the end of October to the end of April. Mr. Chelios mowed the other 3 months out of the 6 months that they were gone. And his response was he felt an obligation to the Gilberts for the Gilberts letting him park 2 of his trailers and his son's basketball hoop in their driveway. And I told him that I would help him out if he needed to, since his kids had sports and extracurricular activities in the evenings. And so if I was mowing, then I would do it that month and he was do it the next month. Even though the Gilberts stopped their landscaping company to keep the lawn from getting out of hand, and Mrs. Fogel's lawn, like I said, they were joining front lawns. So I went ahead and mowed Mrs. Fogel's, and I went ahead and mowed Mrs. Gilbert's.
Okay. And did you have the gentleman behind you? Do you wish to have him testify? Does he know?
To protect me. He was thinking about putting a fence along, so he quits coming in our
So
property.
he doesn't, if he has any, again, I heard from Mrs. Fogel.
Yeah, we asked the neighbor across the street to watch our house. He didn't mow for us. We don't have it mowed. It doesn't grow in the winter time. That's why we stop our service, because it does not grow.
Right.
So we had him parking his stuff there so that it would look like someone was living there while we were gone. We gave him and only him permission, but they parked in our driveway while we were gone, and we thought we were being robbed.
Who parked in your driveway?
The Fogels had people parking in our driveway one day. I saw people coming across the front of my grass, and I tried calling to see if he knew, and he wouldn't answer. So I called and I got a hold of her, and she acted like she didn't know what he was doing, but she doesn't seem to know what he's doing. He's always out front, and they're not together, but she pretended that she saw that there was cars being parked. And I said, you could have told us we're gone. We thought we were being robbed. And she said, well, there's going to be more coming. More cars coming to park in our driveway, and our driveways are completely opposite of each other. They're not even next to each other. If you've seen those pictures, there's no reason for them to park in our driveway.
Your Honor, can I respond to that, please?
Yes.
In that incident there, we did have a party here for my daughter. I was inside cooking. That's the reason why I didn't know what was going on outside. My daughter's friends came, and they parked over there without permission. And I was not aware of it until Mrs. Gilbert called me and asked me if the people that parking, the people is parking in her driveway coming towards my house. Do I know them? And I told her, I said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that they were parking in her parking lot. I say, would you like me to move them? And I say, we're just having a party for my daughter. She go, no, it's okay. I just want to make sure that, she knew who was parking in her driveway. That was the only incident that happened.
She did not say she was sorry. I was floored. She said there's going to be more. That's why I thought of calling the police, but I live next door, so I decided to not.
So you had said, Ms. Gilbert, that that the gentleman in the back is here for protection. Has Mr. Fogel ever threatened you or anything like that?
I feel highly threatened. He
No,
runs
I'm
up to you
not,
if you're outside.
I'm not asking you how you feel. I'm just asking you feel, has there been any?
Yeah, I feel threatened because he's come back in my secure backyard and I don't know what somebody's gonna do that would do something like that. It makes no sense. Everybody's trying to make sense and say he's a neighbor. He's not a neighbor. So I'm terrified. I don't know what somebody's gonna do that would do something like that. I am a real estate agent. I deal with tons of other people that have neighbors and everything, and nobody has ever witnessed or had to deal with anything like this. It makes no sense to anyone I've talked to.
Mr. Fogel, I'll give you the final word here. Anything else you wish to say?
Yes, Your Honor. As far as Mrs. Gilbert accusing me of going into her backyard, as I told you, and it's in the statement, all the shrubbery that's hanging over Mrs. Fogel's property was trimmed from Mrs. Fogel's property. All the branches that came down, they put them on Mrs. Fogel's property. The landscaper, her landscaping company, picked everything up and hauled it away. As far as the gate being open, I've never trespassed on Mrs. Gilbert's property unless I was back there with Mr. Gilbert fixing his sprinkler system, which he asked me to do. As far as the gate being open, the landscapers, when they come on Thursday, if I'm here, I see them, they try to close the gate open, but the wind blows it back open. Mrs. Fogel has a Chihuahua that's usually out in front of her yard with me when I'm working in her front yard or her backyard. And I go back and close the gate so the Chihuahua will not go back there. I have not stepped on Mrs. Gilbert's property since Mr. Gilbert invited me back to help him with his sprinkler system.
But you went on there to mow their yard, didn't you?
That is their front yard. Yes, Your Honor. 3 times.
So yeah, that's going on to their property.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you did go onto their property. Maybe you were trying to help. I don't know, but
I was trying to be a good neighbor and a courteous neighbor, Your Honor. That's all.
I enter my statement that I made into.
I'm sorry?
Can I enter this statement?
You read that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on the record. Everything we're doing here is recorded. You can file it if you wish to, but okay, so maybe I should have read this at the beginning. But the definition of harassment, rise level harassment, is a knowing and willful course of conduct directed at a specific person that seriously alarms, annoys, or harasses, or is detrimental to such person that serves no legitimate or lawful purpose. Course of conduct must be such as would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress and must actually cause substantial emotional distress. The course of conduct is defined as a pattern of conduct composed of a series of acts over a period of time, however short, evidencing a continuity of purpose. Course of conduct includes any form of communication, contact, or conduct, including the sender, and so it goes into stuff that aren't really present here. So here's what I'm going to do here for today. I've read the definition of harassment as well, of course, of conduct. I'll make a finding that on several occasions, Mr. Fogel went onto the property of the Gilberts, and a couple of times did things that he was not asked to do. When you talk about harassment, most times it would come from harassment. Usually people are threatening towards each other. And while this, I'm not going to make any finding that this rises to the level of that, it is annoying. And then we have someone else next to you. That's not the person who was sitting next to you a minute ago.
I know you are. It's my oldest daughter.
Okay. And so, you just can't do that there, Mr.
Yes,
Fogel's property without permission and do that. Maybe their lawn needs mowing, but that's their problem, not yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the bushes, yes, you're entitled to cut bushes from your own yard, but it's not your yard.
Yes, Your
And you don't live there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter, but a lot of times when these orders entered, there's a distance restriction that says don't come within 1,000 feet or what have you.
Yes,
I'm not going to enter that, but I am going to enter an order that says you're just not to have any contact with the Gilberts. Don't talk to them. Don't look at them. Don't go onto their property. And that's it. Do you understand that? So you can still go to and from your ex-wife's and do everything you do to there. You can talk to any other neighbor you want, but you just stay away from the Gilberts and their property. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So he can still come to the neighborhood. There's nothing, he's not violating this order
Right
to
on
do
the
that.
property line every day,
But
setting it
well,
off.
look, ma'am, this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to do here for today.
Okay.
And so, and if there's any sort of violation of that, and if, you know, if you deem that as contact, you can make the appropriate measures you need to take. But just for the next year, you're just not to have any contact with the Gilberts. You understand that, Mr. Fogel?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that'll be it for today. You can get a copy of the order off the Thurston County District Court website. And ma'am, we can make a copy of this order for you here right now.
Thank you.
Hey, Your Honor.
You're free to leave the Zoom call. Okay, so Ms. Ray, we start. Actually, so Ms. Langhorst, you're here, and then you ever served with this petition? How did you find out how to be here?
She served papers.
Okay, so you were served. Okay,
And yeah, this is my son.
got it.
And
And you folks live together?
yes, 8
Okay.
years.
And then you folks are neighbors?
No. She.
Okay, so
moved-
hang on just a second. So if we're going to start with the testimony, we're going to start with her. I'll swear her in, and then I'll swear you folks in, and then I'll hear from you. Okay, so I'll come back to you. I'll let you tell that story. I was just kind of looking for a yes or no there. If the answer was going to be longer than that, then we're going to swear everybody in, and I'll hear your version of what's going on out there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead, ma'am. Could you raise your right hand, Ms. Ray? You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead, I'll hear from you.
Okay. I served an order, had it served against Jeremy because he's just got more aggressive, like coming. He's always felt welcome to come into the yard for some reason. Now he's sticking his chest out and rushing at me like he's trying to intimidate me, and it does. It started with him stealing off the porch a heater, and he came the next day, and I said, "Did you come to tell me that you were going to bring the heater back?" And he said, "I didn't take your heater or your pack of cigarettes." I didn't say anything about the cigarettes. So, he just comes and takes what he wants. Lately, he's vandalizing property. We're in the middle of a remodel, the dishwasher. There's a pile of stuff out and back. I saw him kick them all over out of the pile. He's vandalizing my slow down in the driveway signs. I literally saw him take them off, throw them in the blackberry bushes. I put them back up. He did it again. Now they're back up with some pretty heavy duty wire. He calls me names. He doesn't. I have 3, 5, and 7-year-old grandkids that our kids don't even want to leave him there with us anymore because he's out of control. He was arrested with less than 24 hours after being served the temporary order. He's got a long record. He was picked up earlier this year out in the access road. That's why we have an access road. He doesn't need to leave that and come on our property. And he was picked up early in the year for yelling at the top of his lungs naked with a knife on the access road. I shouldn't have to live like that. I shouldn't have to worry about him coming over onto the property.
What's your response to the question that I asked Ms. Lang? I mean, are you folks neighbors, or how close do you live to each other?
They live behind us.
Okay.
And there's an access road that we have to let them up.
Right.
But he hangs out in our driveway, which is not part of the access road. He leaves the access road and hangs out in front of the house. He doesn't need to do that.
What about Ms. Langhorst? You've asked for an order against her also.
Well, because she sits, she pulls in the driveway, honks her horn till somebody finally goes out and says, "Please don't call the police against Jeremy. Don't call the police." So when he was ripping the signs down, it was probably a couple of weeks ago, I called her and she screamed at me so loud. It was, I can't tell you one word she said. It was incoherent, and hung up on me.
That was Jeremy.
Okay, so ma'am, you'll give a turn.
Okay.
Like, remember what I said at the beginning, don't be
I'm
talking to
sorry.
the other party.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, ma'am, you may continue.
That's about it. He just does not need to come onto our property and rush at me when I'm out watering. I shouldn't have to be afraid to take the garbage out of the garbage can and have him rushing at me. coming out now. We quit going out to the front porch so much. We've been in the back porch because it's quieter, or it's, you know, I don't have to worry about him as much. Now he's just blatantly coming.
How long have you lived there, ma'am?
5 years.
Okay. And then how long has this been going on?
It was probably 4 years. It's just getting worse now.
I see.
The aggression's getting worse. Just the last year or so.
Ms. Langhorst, you can raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
You can put your hand down. So what's happening out there? First of all,
Okay.
you go ahead and tell me what's happening, and then what I really want to know is, do you need to go onto her property to get to yours?
I don't go on her property.
Okay.
I have an easement that is my easement into my driveway. I have pictures of everything.
Okay, so
I need to show you though.
okay, well,
Yeah.
you can, but, okay, so go ahead. I'll hear from you. What about the honking?
I don't honk anywhere. I don't go in their driveway, period. You need to hear the story here to know this, what's going on.
Okay.
I have an easement. I've lived there in my house for 27 years.
Okay.
She lives with Ken, who owns his property. She lives with him.
All right.
And she's been nothing but trouble to me, calling me on the phone, telling me somebody's going into the easement too fast because she don't want dust on her car. And she, can I show you something?
Well, just finish your story. Then
She's put signs up on my easement, F you, slow down, asshole. I had a friend, I didn't have the friend do this. He was appalled, and I have a letter from him. He was appalled that she could put signs like that up on it's my easement, not theirs. Okay, I've always never cared about Ken coming in on the easement, no big deal. I've never had any problems with Ken, who owns the property at all, ever, 27 years. Jeremy always went down there to Ken's and they exchanged conversation. He gave Ken cigarettes. Yes, he did take a propane tank off their porch and put a fan there and I told Cindy this, he put it there because he thought he loved Ken and it would burn their house down. He has not been down there. He did not see the protection order. And he was so offended. I've got pictures of it, of the signs, and this is her standing on her porch. She watched every car that moved come up my easement into my place, called me on the phone. This car went in there too fast. I don't mind Cindy having a 15 mile an hour speed. I've never went up my driveway fast since I've lived there. Never. She wanted to put speed bumps, a gate across it. She's caused me problems with my heart. And also Jeremy was away from the house for other reasons for a while. He has a mental disorder, but he is one of the kindest people in the world until he saw the signs that say asshole, F you. And I've got pictures of
Do you have pictures of those?
Yeah.
Okay. So just show them to Ms. Ray first.
She knows what's there.
Okay.
I
want you to show them. I'm not going to look at anything until, actually, ma'am, are you with them?
Yeah.
Because we want you to save Ms. Langhorst a trip there. If you wouldn't mind coming up, ma'am, you can stay seated. Ms. Langhorst, stay seated, please. I'm just going to have you take those pictures, give them to Ms. Ray.
That's my sister who lived on my property.
Okay. All right.
For
Thank you.
16 years.
Okay. All right.
Here.
Go ahead and take a seat there. No, she can take a seat there. You can go back.
I also want to give you, Judge Meier, I want to give you the letter.
Well, who's the letter from?
The friend who took the pictures because he was so appalled.
No, that's it. I don't need that.
It's just a total embarrassment to have those on my easement.
Okay. Can you, and Ms. Ray, can you bring those up to me, please?
That's her standing out there eyeing whatever's going on, like she did for months. And I got a call on the phone And I believe Jeremy hung up on her for a harassment. He thought it was a harassment person. I have always been cordial to Cindy, except when she started ranking my son.
Okay.
For putting
Did you
the-
put this sign up, ma'am?
I did.
Can these go in the file?
I don't care.
Yeah, okay. We'll put
But
those.
I can't live. I have health problems. I had a brain bleed and heart problems. I can't deal with, and Jeremy got angry because the signs were on the driveway, on my easement. It's not their property, period.
Well, you know, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time.
They have their own driveway to come into their place. And
Okay,
now
so
I,
hang on just a second now.
okay, I'm upset.
Okay, clearly.
I can't believe this is happening.
Well, it is. And so,
I don't want
you
to
know,
go
I'd
on her
appreciate it if
property.
you wouldn't interrupt me, was what I would like.
I'm very sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm upset.
Um,
This is appalling to me.
okay, so. Ms. Ray, I'll come back to you. I've heard, I thought I heard Ms. Langhorst mention Ken. Ken, is that, does he live there still?
Yes, that's
And
right.
he had indicated that, she had indicated that Ken and Jeremy used to get along, still get along. What say you to that?
Well, even after I moved in, Jeremy'd come and hang out on the front porch for a while. I'd say it's time to go, he'd go, but he's gotten more aggressive. Can I make a response about the access road?
Yeah.
It is in fact an access road. Ken owns it. The signs are on his property line.
So that's what I started to say. You know,
Okay.
I'm not going to go into the term. I mean, I know what an easement is and where it goes. Maybe an easement might go over someone's other property.
Right.
You don't need to explain that to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she does own it. She has an interest apparently in that property. And when she has an easement, she can drive back and forth. Yes, maybe it goes through your property, but you know, again, the distinction that's kind of a distinction without a difference for me. So what I don't want to hear is, you know, who owns the property or who owns the easement or all that sort of stuff.
They have their
I
own
did, please,
driveway.
ma'am. See, you just gotta, there's just basic manners that you need to conduct yourself in court.
I'm sorry.
And one of them is you don't interrupt the other party. And, you know, it's really not a great idea to be interrupting the judge either.
I've never been
It's
to
just
court.
not. Well, I have. And I'm trying to tell you how
Okay.
to behave once you're here. And that is don't interrupt when people are talking, anyone. So again, this really isn't in front of me in terms of who owns the easement and all that sort of stuff. I mean, anyway, go ahead, ma'am. You were saying,
Well,
or were you saying that don't talk about the
I
easement and
was
property
done.
owners? Okay. All right. So Jeremy, I haven't heard from you.
A long time. Hi,
Hi.
my name is Jeremy, they're attending the statement.
Yeah, you told me that when you came up here earlier. So you were here a couple days ago. Do you remember that? Do you remember being arrested?
Yeah,
Do you remember being in jail?
yeah,
Do you remember being let out?
yeah.
Do you remember anything else about that?
I don't like plunging in the toilet.
I'm sorry, you need to speak a little bit louder.
I don't like plunging in the toilets and it's hard to do.
Okay. But
I had my wraps up. I got snipped off and I left.
okay. So,
The district court.
you know, what's the story out there with you and Ken? Is Ken a friend of yours? Or a guy you know?
Used to be.
When did it stop? Okay, ma'am, Ms. Langhorst, I'm talking to him. Go ahead, or do you remember? Do you have an opinion as to when it stopped?
Used to be.
I'm sorry?
Around 6 months ago.
Okay, what happened? Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, actually what I did was I just went back to my house.
Okay. So do you hang out there anymore? Do you go to visit anymore to the Rays or Ms. Ray? I don't know what Ken's last name is.
Yeah, I can't.
Can you stay off that property?
Yeah,
Okay. Can you not rip signs down?
right,
You understand that even if you don't
Yeah.
like them?
right, yes.
Okay.
Can I have,
No.
no, I can't say. Yeah.
So here's the thing, Ms. Ray. And everyone else, I'm just going to speak plainly as I can, because he was in front of the court on September 9th. An order was entered that he's to be evaluated for competency, which means he's going to have to be interviewed by Western State Hospital and all that to see if he's even, and since he's out of custody, that's probably, they're so backed up, given the lack of state resources, it's going to be at least a year before we see that. And he's had other cases that have been dismissed for that same reason that I see. And so with regard to the order against Ms. Langhorst, I'm not going to grant that order at this time. Not all conflict rises to the level of harassment. If people don't like each other, they don't get along with each other, that's one thing. I'm not going to grant an order against Mr. Stegman too, because basically I'm concerned about a lot of the things that I just identified. I can't make a finding that he's intentionally trying to be harassing or upsetting or anything like that. But you need to stay off that property. Can you understand that? You're not to go there anymore.
Yes, correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And with regard to you two, you have rights in the easement, right? I already told you I'm not, just close your mouth and don't act so shocked, all right?
No, no, I'm not acting shocked.
Okay,
I just wanted to speak again
okay,
because.
no, you're not. But you know, you have a right to an easement. You apparently have an easement interest on that. But you just not interrupt me, please.
I didn't.
Okay, you want to say something and you're trying to start. I mean, again, I've been at this long enough to know when people want to talk. Okay, so just exactly. So you have an easement. You have some choices to how you want to take advantage of that. You can take advantage of it in a way that you know she wants, that's appropriate and respectful to your neighbor, or not, right? And with regard to you, ma'am, they have a right to go on this. You don't, this might be bad news for you, but you don't have the right to impose speed limits on that. You just don't. I mean, you don't, you know, if they're being reckless or something like that, then you can do it. But I mean, if you have the 5-mile speed limit up, if they come in at 10, you can't write them a ticket. And so you can request that and have them respect that. And they can't be, again, they can't be reckless and drive on it without a license and all of that. But you guys have lived next to each other long enough. You should be able to figure this out between the two of you. And then see, and then everyone's going to say, oh, it's not my fault, it's theirs.
Can I speak yet?
But ma'am, I will tell you this. I've already told you I'm not going to enter an order. If you choose to speak, the only thing you're going to do is talk me out of that to do something else.
No. I don't care if you have an order.
Okay.
I don't go there to her anyway. The only time that I've ever even talked to Cindy.
Okay. Did you hear what I said about how you conduct yourself on the easement?
I have always went up that. I respected Ken from the time I've moved there to go up that easement slow. It's the people who come to my easement to come to visit me have went up the driveway faster than they should. I don't care if she has a speed limit sign.
Okay, so hang on just a second. Did you ever think to maybe talk to those folks about, hey, you might want
I did.
Okay. Did they respect that?
Yes. Yes, she
You agree
doesn't
with
want
that?
dust on her car.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I don't care about the speed limit sign on my easement, but the ones that say the F word and the ones that say asshole are very disrespectful to my company that comes into my place. I don't care.
Well, again, hang on just a second. To come back to, because again, you should.
This is what this is actually all about.
Hang
I don't.
on just a second. You're not helping yourself. So I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
But with regard to you, putting signs like that, which I'm not going to repeat, are provocative. I mean, anybody who reads a sign like that, who's driving on that road, is going to think, gosh, they're talking about me. What the person calling me that for? So that's another reason why I'm not entering the order. But and so, because again, a lot of that, I consider that provocative when you put up signs like that. And so I'm not going to enter order right now. Jeremy, you need to stay off the property. And ma'am, and I don't know whether anything I've said has made anything registered on you.
Yes, it has.
And so,
I don't go on there.
and so, but with regard to, don't put signs up like that. I know you don't be calling people those names.
I took the one with the F word down. That's been down since after 2 days.
Right.
I just wanted to make a point that the posts were private property and they couldn't take stuff off of them.
All right, that's it for today. You all are free to go. You can get copies of the denial orders off the Thurston County District Court website.
Could I have my pictures back?
No, you said you said I could put them in the file.
No, I want those pictures back.
Do you have digital copies of them?
No, I got those copies. You didn't get the letter from my
No,
friend.
I don't need that.
Okay,
I asked you if you could put them in the file when they go in the court file. Can you make copies of those?
I can't.
They'll be black and white. You can get them back black
I'd
and
like
white.
those copies back.
No,
Well,
you can't have them, ma'am. They've been submitted in the court file.
I can, okay, no problem. And I'm sorry if I was rude in
You
here.
can go, you should just stop and you're free to go. You can go.
For being so kind.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You stay off the property there, Jeremy.
You're right, Your Honor.
Can I say something?
No, you cannot. The
Not
hearing's
even-
over. The other party's gone.
Ken doesn't care if we come on there, his property.
Okay, so I just told you to stop talking. Listen to your sisters. It's you. Okay, so you can have this conversation out in the hallway.
You're not giving her back.
Give a warm heart, man.
Okay, take it.
Bye.
Jeremy, why don't you come on up? I'll give you these pictures back. You can have black and white.
Something.
Shut up.
Okay, you guys are gonna be asking for orders against each other in a few minutes.
When he
You
went
would,
over to the
okay,
property,
ma'am, just stop,
I didn't
please.
show him
Stop
no contact
talking.
order. I didn't show Jeremy the protection order, so now he's in court and she put him in jail. I didn't show
Okay,
Jeremy.
ma'am, the hearing is over. You're free to go. So this looks like also to be, and you're asking for petitions against each other. Just a second. So again, just so I get this right, you're Ms. Youth, correct? You're Ms. McDaniel.
Correct.
And then is it Sabin Woods? Are you Mr. Woods? Sabin, I apologize for that. Yeah, you come up too. Sorry about that. I should have brought you up here also. So, I will say that whenever I see petitions against each other, my first question is always, you both want the same thing, to be left alone by the other person. What really do you need me for? So you could just let that question hang for a minute. And then I did review what's being submitted, but, and again, Ms. Youth, just because for no particular reason, it doesn't matter who files first, but you did file first. I'll start with you. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down. This strikes me as being kind of a property dispute as to where the line is. Is that correct or not? Or okay. So how long have you lived there?
8 years going on 9.
Okay. And then how long has Ms. Hang on just a second. Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the information testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
You can put your hand down. How long have you lived there?
3.5 years.
Okay. So, okay, Ms. Youth, I'm going to come back to you. How long has this been going on? Is this a recent thing, or has it been, did you used to get along, or, because I see that all the time. Everything was fine until we got a survey and it was off by 6 inches. And so tell me what's going on out there.
Okay. So we are usually gone in the wintertime.
Okay. I've heard that before this morning. Go ahead.
So we got a call from our neighbors that someone had bought the piece of property next to us and they were going to cut down a tree that's on our property. And so I got Leslie's information and gave her a phone call and let her know that that tree wasn't in fact on her property and that she might want to get a survey done before she buys the property because there is definitely some.
Well, how long ago was this?
Before she even moved in.
So like three and a half years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So apparently, okay, continue on. Sorry.
So then apparently she had the survey done, which showed the tree was actually shared. So
okay.
Both of ours. And my phone call with her, she thought the tree was dead. I let her know, because she was moving in before it actually had leafed out. I let her know the tree was very much alive and that it provided us with a lot of shade to the point where we don't have to run our very noisy air conditioning in the summertime. And I thought that conversation, I thought it was settled at that point, being a shared tree, we did not want it cut down.
Okay.
And then we get another phone call saying that she was going to go ahead and cut the tree down anyway because it's messy. I don't know how she would know that at that point, except, a tree with leaves. So we had to end our trip 2 weeks early and rush home to save the tree. And so I put a sign on the tree just in case, we didn't wake up in time to stop the tree company that was supposed to be there the next morning, letting them know, don't cut the tree down, property of, our address. And so we met the tree company and Leslie and her boyfriend outside of the property the next morning.
And again, this is 3.5 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And she had intended on having the tree cut down, but we let the tree service know it's a shared tree. We don't okay for that to be cut down.
Right.
We did agree to let Leslie chop all of the branches off on her side of the tree.
Okay.
So, to prevent them from hitting her RV, whatever mess. And we thought that was the end of it. Leslie and us were friends after that. She had told me that there was another huge tree in the front that she wanted to cut down because she wants to have a garden in her yard. She wants flowers. And so we were friends. I gave her a couple 6-foot cedar planter boxes, brand new. We agreed to do this shared garden together, which I personally took my truck down, loaded up the blacktop, brought it back. My son dumped it out so we could do a shared garden. We had been friends all summer. We had invited her to all of our family gatherings, events out with our friends. And then she had made an offhanded comment before we left for the next winter, saying she was going to get another survey done because the survey line went through a shed that she had built after she moved in. And I said, well, Leslie, no, you had that shed built after you had this property surveyed. Getting another survey done isn't going to give you more of my property. And that was the end of that conversation. And so we're out of town again. We get another phone call telling us that she's had the property resurveyed and the survey markers had put the tree on her property and she was going to have the tree cut down again. And I saw a picture of the markers and showed them to my husband. He sent her a text saying, we're not going to honor that survey. We're going to have another one done. We'll go by whatever this other one says. But, to have a property line move over 18 inches is kind of, anyway, so we came back home and called the same survey company that she had hired to survey initially. Mm-hmm. And he resurveyed, put the line back to where it originally was, had commented that the back marker had been moved somehow, and put the line back. So she built a fence. She put up a cedar fence, split rail fence. And I thought that would be the end of it. Minus the story. I mean, you've seen what I wrote in there about her. When she had the new survey done, she had thrown out all of my plants from our shared garden, just throwing them in my driveway. My daughter-in-law happened to be in my yard, taking care of it. She keeps it clean while we're gone, and caught her throwing the plants in the driveway barefooted, and confronted her about it and said, this is not your property yet. They're going to have another survey done. It's technically not your property. I'm sure you saw that video that I sent you. And she cussed out my daughter-in-law. We came home and had the other survey done again. That the property line was moved back. She built a fence. She claimed in what she had written to you is that I had harassed her fence builder so much that he moved her fence back, but she actually did the line prep for the fence. I mean, you saw the picture that I gave you, her actually making that. The fence was put exactly where she had prepped. And she couldn't put it anywhere else. The property line, I think you've seen the pictures I also gave you where the marker is next to her fence. Okay. And the white one in the ground. Yeah. Yeah. And she just keeps coming over and marking off the old line, coming onto my property, tearing out my plants on my side of her fence. Okay. I put up no trespassing signs when we got back, hoping that would stop her. She still kept coming over. So I put another no trespassing sign where she keeps coming in between the tree. She decided to take a dead tree and not in a pot. I mean, it's completely dead, knocked my sign down and stuck the dead tree in its place. Okay. So I called an officer and I said, could you please call my neighbor and ask her to please stop trespassing? And he goes, well, you should file blah, blah, blah at the court. And I said, I'd rather not take that step yet. I would appreciate if you would just call her and let her know that if she keeps doing this, I will have to take that step. And then I asked him if it would be escalation if I went and removed her string and the stake she had placed in my yard. She makes it look like a survey company. On your side of the fence. Yeah, she put a stake there is a survey company in the park. Our property is part of this amended phase 2, where they're going to give us more space in the back and take away, because we own like half the access road. So we're trading. They're going to take back that, and we're going to get property in the back. So they had a marker back there. Somehow that marker ended up in my yard further down with her string marking off property that is not hers.
There's a fence. This is on your side of the fence.
Yeah, yeah. And she's ripped up all of the plants that are even anywhere near like that far back on my property. I've got her on video ripping out those plants. I sent you the picture of her with the armload of them. I just would like her to stay on her side of the fence. I don't think that's too much to ask. The survey twice now puts the line where she built her fence, and I don't understand why she can't just stay on her side. After her phone call with the officer, she came into my yard again. She said, "Where's my effing tree?" We didn't answer. We were sitting out in the yard. I had taken the stake that she'd put in my yard and the dead tree and placed them at the end of her fence out at the road. She went out there, found them, took the stake, threw it across the road into the bushes, grabbed her dead tree, called me a bitch, and put the tree back in my yard. So I filed against her. And now she has filed, in one day, she filed 10 complaints against us in our park. One of them being the property line, where you can see in their response to her, they told her her string does not represent the property line. She had us remove, well, she requested that we remove a camera. We didn't have to. We can legally have cameras on our property, protecting our property. But she claimed this camera was spying on her. And so we took it down. I wish I hadn't. I would have had her trespassing a lot more. But I just want her to stay on her side of her fence.
Let me hear from her, ma'am. I think I got a good understanding of your position. But the tree, was the tree ever cut down, or is that still up?
It's still up, but yeah.
I was just curious.
It's been a fight to keep it up.
Ms. McDaniel, I think I've already sworn you in.
Yes, sir.
And so I understand why they're asking for an order. I'll guess here for you, why you feel you need an order against them.
Well, for one thing, she did not have my phone number before I moved in. We never had a conversation about the tree. What happened was I was looking at the lot. My boyfriend noticed all the other trees were budded out. This one wasn't. His comment was,
hang on, I'm going to stop you there, because I'll tell you what's bothering me about what she said, what I want you to address.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the tree's a non-issue because it hasn't been cut down.
Correct.
But the thing that, and again, maybe you may have, I don't know if you were paying attention. I wouldn't blame you, any of you, if you weren't. But at the previous hearing we had similar to the thing that bothered me, frankly, was one person going on to another person's property uninvited, doing stuff. And that's what I want you to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about that, because the tree hasn't been cut down. It's still up. And but again, the fence has apparently been put up. She's saying, and I'll hear from you, you've been going on to her property and ripping up her plants, throwing a dead tree in here and making some unkind comments. And so I'll hear from you on that. And then I'll hear from your response to that. And I also want to know why you're asking for an order. She explained pretty well why she feels like she's being harassed. Mm-hmm. I want to know why you think and then I didn't hear from you, Mr. Woods, because you're not listed as petitioner, but you are listed as a respondent. And after I hear from her, then I might hear from you both. So how is it you need an order against them? That's my question.
I feel that I am constantly being stalked and or harassed.
How so?
You are not supposed to have cameras within the living space in the park. Their camera, as you can see through one of those pictures, is inside their rig, looking directly at my front door. If my door is open, they can see inside. They watch me 24/7, no matter what I do. And in all honesty, sir, I had one surveyor that I hired.
Do you have any questions? Is there any dispute in your mind? I feel like they're pretty clear. They know where the line is.
I am also very clear. There are stakes.
Okay, so hang on just a second. Do you agree with them?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
There are surveyor stakes in the ground. Let me start. May I explain about the fence?
I'm asking you to explain.
Okay. She intimidated the gentleman that was building my fence, asking if he had to cut a tiny piece of a root out of this tree to put the post in. She apparently had a little bit of a fit about it and wanted a piece of the tree, wanted the root as evidence in case, I'm sure if the tree died, it would be all my fault. but he never gave it to her. But he was so intimidated, he moved it back 6 inches because she was over him constantly. So he told me that. And I said, well, I wish you hadn't have done that. But with that being said, my fence is about 6 inches inside my property line. I went to the office. It is noted in the office at Lost Lake Resort that the fence is inside my property line. Right now, the park has hired a different surveyor to make sure where the property lines are and where the markers are. I have not moved any markers. She was there. I was there. The COA president was there. Sabin was there. We all saw the markers done by the surveyors. I don't understand why there's any question. I step over my fence to weed my 6 inches. Weeds, not plants. And as far as plants going out of her yard, when her daughter, I started working in the yard about 10 o'clock in the morning, and she's there with her phone. To me, that's harassment. She stalked me while I worked in my yard, prepping for my fence all day. Finally, in the afternoon, I did lose my temper. I told her to F off, get away from me. She looked at me and she goes, stop talking. Excuse me? Okay, well, whatever. I will just continue, just another whatever on them. So I don't understand why they keep saying I am on their property. I am not. It is denoted by the pegs that are secured in the ground. I have not moved any of them. You can't.
But 6 inches, I mean, that's.
It's my foot. I straddle the fence to weed my property. That's it. But I don't appreciate, pardon me?
How tall is the fence?
It's low.
Okay.
It has to be a certain cedar rail fence to be accepted in the park. I liked the look of it. I thought it was a wise idea, business-wise, to have my property surveyed so I would know what I was paying taxes on. We were fine as friends until Sabin sent me a text that said he would, if I touched the tree, they weren't going to honor it. They weren't going to honor my surveyor, and they were going to sue me. Don't talk to me about it. Don't ask me what I'm doing. Just send me a text that states that you're going to sue me. And then I got angry because of that. And I'm a gardener. I did not throw her plants. I scooped them up and I placed them in her driveway. But after I got his text,
where did you scoop them up from? From the 6 inches?
For some reason, she thought we had decided we would have a shared garden, and that was never discussed either.
How long were those plants there?
From the day I moved in.
I know. So plants were there for like a couple of years. Now all of a sudden you pulled them up and.
No, she had decided that she wanted to put her tchotchkes, mushrooms, gnomes, and whatever gardening things she wanted in my property. And that's one reason why I decided to have a fence, because I wanted my property to be noted as mine. Okay. So I gently moved her plants to her side of the driveway. And after I got the text from Sabin, yeah, the last 3 plants got thrown, literally. And I called a police officer after that to ask my rights. And I told him what I did. And I'm sorry, he laughed. He thought it was funny and ridiculous. All of this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be here. But I don't appreciate Sabin sneaking around behind my lot, bobbing and weaving and trying to see what I'm up to, because they can't see what I'm doing over there. And they're darn tootin' going to find something they can complain about me. And the reason I filed 10 ordinances, information reports on them is because they were called for. They do not obey or honor the quiet hours. We're technically only supposed to have 1 string of lights. She has laser lights that shine up in all the trees so you can't even see the stars. It goes on. I constantly feel like they're poking at me. I don't like being videoed 24/7. I can imagine I'm pretty boring. So I just don't appreciate the harassment every single day. I wake up with anxiety. I think about them first thing in the morning. I'm wondering what they're going to do, what they're going to complain about. What did I do to upset them today? I just want to garden and be left alone. We both want the same things, but it's over this much property that is mine. It is denoted. There are stakes. in the ground from the surveyor that are officially noted.
Okay. So ma'am, I'm going to hear from Mr. Woods. I heard from you from Mr. Woods. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Sir.
You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can put your hand down. And ma'am, you'd probably be doing yourself a favor if you just turned around and looked at me. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Woods.
I have made some bullet points. I'd like to just go through them real quick. One, we have not ever been on her property without invitation. And that was at the beginning when her boys were helping her actually spread some gravel and we did some work. I fixed a propane tank for her once, but that's been 3+ years ago. In her note, there is an issue I have with defamation of character, which I don't know how to address yet, but I just will bring that to your attention. The cameras that we have are viable in the park. Everybody has them. They are pointed in our yard. They might look like they point towards something, but they all go in the green belt or over our hot tub. They do not point at her front door. We do not agree where the line is because her survey that she got was proven to be wrong. When we got the new one, our surveyor talked to her surveyor for the last survey she'd gotten. They admitted they were wrong. It shows on our survey, which we have filed with the county, that that stake was in the wrong position that was originally found. So it is marked on that survey. The marker that she is talking about in the back where she is tying her string to is not official yet. That would be a marker that is possibly our new back marker after the phase 2 amendment goes through. How that marker even got in the ground, don't know, because phase 2 has not been implemented. So how that marker got where it is a mystery. And it's not currently in use. So the old marker actually is behind one of her sheds on COA property. The pics she submitted, you can tell she is on our side of the property. She has to be on our side of the fence to take those pictures. Her survey again was proven wrong. The text that I sent her, I think I don't have it, but I think she gave you a copy of it. I thought it was very clean and legal. There was no threats or anything except for the fact that we had 2 surveys that said different things. We were going to get a 3rd survey. We would follow the 3rd survey, but do not touch the tree until we get back because we were gone. We weren't even there. And she has done that 3 years running where she surprises us while we're gone with something like this. We have never complained about her to the park. We have never filed any incidents. We have never complained to anybody. We might have had discussions with friends on, we're wondering what she's up to, but her talking about us finding things to talk to people or the board or HO meetings about has never happened. And the 10 incidents that she did file at the same time that she filed her to come here, all were thrown out except one, which was our truck was parked temporarily on COA property while we're clearing out an apple tree that we want to park our truck in the front of our property, which is next to the shared property. So all the other ones were thrown out by the COA.
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am. I'll give you the final word here.
I disagree with that completely.
Okay,
Obviously.
that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
But go ahead. You can, I'll hear from you.
Whatever surveys were done, all of them are following the same line.
Okay, but you disagree where that line is, apparently.
He disagrees where it is.
Yeah, well, you both disagree.
But that's what I don't understand.
If you can't agree, if neither of you agree,
Right.
that tells me you both disagree.
Okay, well, obviously.
So
but
you don't agree either.
What I don't understand is in the back where my newer shed is backed up against Lost Lake land. It is never, ever going to be theirs at that point in time. That stake there goes with the stake to the tree and you draw a line. How is that complicated?
So, well, okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. If you're done, you can continue.
No, sir. I know their concern is all about this tree. It's all about the tree. But what they don't understand is they do know what Washington state laws are. I don't appreciate them harassing the people that I hire to come to my property to perform work. I had an arborist come to check on the health of the tree, and Sabin chased him down to make sure that he wasn't going to cut down the tree. Well, that's not his job. They don't know who I hired. They're just busybodies in my stuff all the time. They haven't ever filed anything against me in the park because I don't do anything for them to complain about. I don't keep my radio or karaoke machine loud until midnight. I don't have lights everywhere that bother people. I pretty much try to keep to myself. I keep to myself. And I don't understand why they are constantly poking at me. And I've never called her a bitch that I know of. I only respond in kind. If she yells at me, I will yell back.
Hang on just a second.
And the COA president acknowledged that the markers were true and correct. Stage 2 or not.
Yes. Okay. So a couple things here. First of all, I reviewed. Yes, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I
If
just
you're not, I'll
thought of
let you
something
finish.
else. As far as cameras go, there is a picture in there that you can tell it's from the inside of their rig and it's pointing directly at my front door and my deck. I do not feel comfortable going out there to have a cocktail in the afternoon because I know I'm on camera. I can't enjoy my surroundings.
Okay.
I'm done.
Great. And so a couple things. First of all, before I give a ruling on these cases, as I've said before at the beginning of all this, Ms. Youth is asking for an order against Ms. McDaniel. Ms. McDaniel's asking for an order against both Mr. Woods as well as Ms. Youth. As I said somewhat before, maybe off the cuff that, you both want the same thing. What do you need me for? A lot of times in instances in these sorts of cases, like I say, either deny both or grant both. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But here's the thing with regard to the property line, all property disputes, I don't have any jurisdiction over that. Whether when you say like, well, the survey says this, it's so obvious. Well, it's not obvious. And you clearly don't agree where the property line is. And if you can't work that out for yourselves, and apparently you can't, you need to go to Superior Court and get that straightened out, because that's not something that's in front of me here right now. What's in front of me right now is whether or not a pattern of harassment has been shown by either party against the other parties. With regard to Ms. Youth's petition, and again, I will disagree with you on this, Ms. McDaniel, and that is, yeah, a lot of it's about the tree, but that's not why we're here. We're here because you came onto her property, threw a bunch of stuff on there, threw a dead tree on there, pulled up plants from her property. But again, when you talk about 6 inches on the other, I mean, that's just, when I'm holding my hands approximately 6 inches apart, that's really not practical in light of photographic evidence that I have seen and reviewed in the film that I have viewed. And I will make a finding that you went onto their property, left stuff on their property on more than one occasion, which I do find harassing. And I'm going to enter an order that says you're just not to, again, there's not going to be a distance restriction. Don't come within 1,000 feet. You're just not to come onto their property. Do you understand that?
Of course.
And so, good. I hope so. And I know they do. With regard to your petition against both of them, that petition is going to be denied based on what I've heard from you. I can't find it. They didn't go onto your property. They're not doing anything. Yes, they're protective of that tree, and I'm not making any ruling on that sort of thing because I can't. With regard to the threat to sue, I mean, frankly, was entirely appropriate. And I would have said something to the effect of, if you cut that tree down, you do so at your peril, because they'll have opportunities to, and I've seen cases like that case, criminal trespass, destruction of trees I see cases like that in here all the time. I'm not done yet. And so I don't find anything inappropriate about that. With regard to the cameras, I've not been shown sufficiently where the cameras have been placed in a way that's harassing. I'm sorry, you can't feel like you can enjoy, to use your words, a cocktail in the afternoon. But my understanding is that that complaint was made to the cameras about the homeowners association, which I've told has been dismissed. And so I'm going to back that up. I'm not going to make any finding in that regard. But the tree remains an issue. But again, if you can't sort it out amongst yourselves, like I say, you're going to have to get a Superior Court judge to do it. But I will find that the behavior you've engaged in has gone beyond the level of just, going onto their property. As you've seen from the earlier case, that kind of bothers me. People have a right to not have people come onto their property undivided for any reason. And putting things, and I know in your opinion, you disagree with me, ma'am, and I get it. People disagree with me. You've seen several people disagree with me already here this morning. And I understand if you disagree what I'm doing here now, but that's what I'm going to do. You've been wanting to say something. I'm done. If you want to say something, you can.
Well, I am very well aware of what the Washington State rules are about the tree. And I just wish they'd relax about it because I don't care about the tree anymore. There isn't anything I can do about it. It's there. It's going to stay. Who cares? Get over it.
Well, again, I will say, ma'am, I would suggest you look at yourself in the mirror when you say get over it, because it seems to me like you're the one who, frankly, hasn't gotten over it by the way you've conducted yourselves on their property. That's just my impression from not knowing any of you. I've never met any of you before right now, but just the impression I've got. You kind of need to let things go there too. And again, if you disagreement, you want to get into a Superior Court case over those 6 inches, you're both are free to do it, but that's what's going to happen here today.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
If the surveyors deem that the property lines are correct by the stakes, am I allowed to go on that 6 inches of property that would then be mine?
See, here's the thing, ma'am, and
I'm just asking.
I'm gonna give you an answer, because the surveyors, their survey is an opinion, right? And that only becomes your property when a Superior Court judge tells you that it does. If it's in disputed, it's disputed. So, and again, they call those actions quiet titles, and you need to quiet title in that disputed 6 inches of land out there. So if you're asking for my permission to do that, you're not going to get it.
No, that's not
because
what
I'm
I'm
not in
asking.
position to give it.
I'm not asking.
Well, you kind of were.
No.
Yeah, you said, am I entitled to go on there? And I'm saying I'm
No,
not.
I was asking if the,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I'm
never
saying-
mind.
And yeah, that's right.
Never mind. It's all good.
So does you folks have any questions about what's happening here? Again, you're not to go, I'm signing your order is going to be granted. Yours is going to be denied because I haven't found any sort of pattern of harassment, but you're not to go onto their property. Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
Got it. Or contact. And again, let me back up here a little bit. Give me just a second. This order will exist for 1 year. So the parameters of the order are, you're not to contact them, have any contact with them at all, don't cause them any harm, not to engage in stalking behavior. And then there's not a distance restriction. You're just not to go on the premises of the protected person, which is Ms. Youth, or residence or workplace. And again, I'm not making any sort of ruling and finding on who owns the 6 inches. That's, and that I'm just going to leave that as it is. And I'm going to make one exception, and that's through except for legal proceedings. Like if there's any sort of lawsuit filed, you can have them served appropriately, but not face to face. And at the risk of saying something that you folks don't want to hear, this doesn't affect your right to make complaints if you feel they're appropriate, but you're just to stay away from them, stay off their property, and don't have any contact with them. You understand? Mm-hmm. We'll make copies of both for you'll get all. Oh, sorry. You're going to get copies of both decisions in both cases. Yes, sir.
I did have one question, Your Honor.
Sure.
There was an allegation in the writ that she submitted that is now on public record that is derogatory towards me.
Yeah.
Is there any way to have that removed or redacted?
It's a court file that's
Okay.
just part of the public
So
record.
I will have
If
to
you
go
need
to
to take
civil
some-
court.
You need to take some proceedings in that regard. I've denied her order, and there's just no. It's a public record now. There's nothing I can do.
Nothing I can.
And you could speak to a lawyer about what if any, action you want to take.
Thank you.
Sure. There's a Chris Carew who just logged on. Are you here for a case?
Yes, I'm Chris Carew.
What time are you scheduled to be here?
11 o'clock.
11? Okay. Well,
Yes.
Give me just a minute. Where's Lacey today? You need to be in courtroom number 2, Mr. Carew. You logged into courtroom number 3. You need to leave this, log off this Zoom call, log back in, but to courtroom number 2. You're in the wrong courtroom.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So, ma'am, you can come up and take those copies, and you're free to go. And then you folks are come up wait till she passes. You can come up, take those copies, and you folks are free to go as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for your time.
It's my job. I'd be here anyway, but you're free to go, ma'am, sir. We have anything else we need to do on the record?
So the first matter, that was the motion.
Yeah.
I let her know she's gonna have to reschedule.
Yeah, because I can't, I'm not gonna do it without her. He wasn't served anyway.